All right. If David is trying to talk, we cannot hear him. Or I can't, at least.
Hello.
There you are.
Okay. Yeah, we have it. Yeah. We're pushing the boundaries of Discord. It seems like neither of us can talk at the same time unless one of us rejoins. So that's third time that's happened. Cool. Well, if you can hear me again, and if everyone can hear me, I think we can start. All right. Cool. Well, actually, let me send out the message first. We don't quite have everyone here yet.
I wonder if we're going to reach the point of everyone breaking Discord again, since we're beyond the cap now. Hopefully not, but
Question submission form as last time, or
yep, same form. Leaving it up for a week in the announcements between had some interesting responses.
that tends to happen.
Yeah, you're not hearing anyone because no one is currently talking. Pre-show dead air.
Okay, doing a second at everybody. Then I guess we'll probably usually wait another 2 minutes, and then usually everybody's in, and then we get to go. All right, looks like we're about good. I've been watching the numbers. Chaos, does it look good?
Yep.
Stabilized out. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the official MidJourney office hours. We do these every week. We do this every week. We start off kind of talking about what we've been thinking about lately, what we're working on, things that might be upcoming, and then we just answer questions for a while. So I usually try to do this for a few hours of question answering mostly, and then usually the first 30 minutes or so is just talking about kind of the state of what's happening. And yep, I guess it looks like it's already 1400. I usually try to give everyone a chance to join, but I think we're ready to go. Cool. And you can hear me okay? Everything audio check is good?
Yep. All audio's good.
All right, good to do that before I go off for too long. 1 second. Cool. So let's see. I guess it's been a quiet week on the announcement side, but it's been a busy week on the inside. We're working a lot on, I guess, trying to get some kind of next generation algorithm that we're kind of happy with as a default. Right now we're in kind of a interesting middle ground where the V3 algorithm is really artistic and vibey, and I think kind of understands your words really well. And then I think we have these sort of test algorithms that are more realistic and have more knowledge, but are kind of not necessarily good at reading. Like they'll focus on one word but not another word, and they'll kind of focus on the words in the beginning more than words in the end, and it has a lot of behaviors that people have a challenge with. On top of that, is sort of less vibey and less artistic and that was sort of a trade-off with the realism. And so we're not really happy with that state of things. We really do want something that's better, and that's a challenge. We also want it to be faster. Like the test algorithms are kind of slow right now, and we don't really do big batch sizes. They don't really do big aspect ratios, and so basically, and then of course there's there's because some of the open source code was kind of poisoned with porn. It's like a little bit more sexualized, and I think by default it would be ideal, and we want to pull that back too. And so there's kind of a lot of issues with these sort of test systems, and we're trying to figure out ways to fix it. And so there's kind of two paths. One involves us kind of modifying the existing system, and working on that. And then another version is kind of making our way to the next version of the systems, which are kind of being made from scratch right now. And so kind of it's a question of do we tune the one that we already have, or do we just push forward to the next thing? And I think the challenge there is that a lot of our next versions will be way better. We're training them on these big AI mainframes, which basically can get taken offline right now because they're kind of experimental. So basically we're so I was hoping to have it a few weeks ago, but then the sort of mainframe got taken offline, and then they updated the drivers, and then our code didn't work anymore. I'm not trying to give you excuses, but kind of just to kind of give you a sense of things going on. Like when you're training on these big machines that have never been used before, basically we're kind of subject to the up and down times of a scarce resource. So that's been kind of delayed, unfortunately, a few times now. And so it's a few weeks behind where we'd like it to be, but things are moving. And then on the flip side, we can kind of go back and try to fine tune the existing system to be a bit better, but it is a little bit it's kind of like a machine with a few too many problems, and you can build a better one. And so it's a little frustrating on the team side to kind of say to kind of be split between the two. And there isn't really a clear good way out right now. of that situation. Like it's something to just try to do both. But if we do both, then go slower. And so it's kind of a tricky situation where we're kind of caught between two versions of the models. And I mean, the biggest issue is that the test um, there's a lot of how should I say um, a lot of the current systems have like pieces of open source code in it, and we don't really get to make all the decisions on all those open source code. And so very often, like they could just be bad decisions in there. Maybe just the wrong decisions, not optimal decisions. They're not really decisions being made in the with people like using it. And so we can kind of get stuck with these new systems and just kind of be fixing it, and it's not super fun. Not to complain, but it's like kind of giving you some sense of like the struggles of what's going on right now, and why don't we have like a new version? Um, and so we're trying to kind of figure out what to do. I think we're gonna try really hard to do both to the extent we can. We're gonna try to fix current systems a bit, and we're gonna try to push towards the next systems. And it means that we might be going. There's some uncertainty in the timelines because of that. Mm. And I'm not really sure what else to do there. I think that it's clear that in the long term, um, that we're going to have these huge models that are going to run on these. We're gonna have these models that are 10 times bigger, running on these big mainframes that these big AI chips. They're gonna be super fast. They're gonna be big batch sizes. It's gonna be really vibey and beautiful. And I think we kind of all know how exciting that can be. Um, and we're in it for the long term, so we're just trying to get there. That's the thing that kind of has us most excited. Um, that said, like we do feel some obligations to try to help people get better stuff sooner. And I think that's the struggle. It's sort of like much to how to balance the long term where we sort of really want to go and excited about versus the short term of like the current stuff is kind of broken and not great. And well, I wouldn't say the current stuff's the new models are kind of are a little broken and have a lot of issues. And I mean, obviously the V3 stuff is here, so that's obviously great. I guess I'm just trying to kind of express that we're kind of like literally just kind of thinking out loud to kind of give you a sense of what's kind of in our minds right now is we're kind of caught between these two systems, and we really want to make something better, and we kind of know where the long term goes, and we feel confident about that, and we know the short term other stuff possible, and we're kind of trying to balance and juggle those two things to try to figure out what to do. And I can't say that we know exactly what to do yet, but I think if people are happy, that's the most important thing. And yeah, I yeah, I hope everybody's I hope everyone's having fun with the current systems. Let's see, outside of that, I think there's a lot of work to branch out a little bit on the technologies, and we might have like our first that might be the first specialized model in the next few weeks that'll like do a specific domain of images. Then we might have a bunch of web stuff that's going to make like really nice like sort of pure web flows. A lot of web features coming. Whether that's like web creation flows, which some people have been testing already, to like some new organization flows, like to some new features that I don't really want to like give away yet, but are trying to break out of sort of traditional text to image, but that still use the same algorithms. So we do want to like we do want to branch out a little bit and start to kind of show. In many ways, I think the current MidJourney experience is like a tutorial or what's really what's really going to happen in the next year or two. Uh, like it's like the tutorial for this really intense, amazing, video game or whatever. I'm not making a game, but it's like kind of it's the intro experience, and so we really want to try to build some more advanced tools, and hope in the next. I don't know if that's going to be like 2 weeks from now or a month from now, but I'm really hoping that we get to kind of branch out and have some more variety too, so that people can kind of get a sense of where things are going to be going. Um, yeah, so I guess I think there's some tension right now, both in like on the minds and like in our minds, which is sort of like this sort of balance between branching out, fine tuning the current stuff, and getting the next versions ready. And it's really hard to do everything. We're mostly, we're only around 10 people, so it's a struggle sometimes. Uh, but we're doing our best. And there's definitely there's like, and we're gonna get there. It's hard to get the exact dates on anything, particularly when the AI chips are kind of so uncertain in their availability. Like we really were hoping to have something a couple weeks ago, and then they took it offline for a week, and then they changed the drivers, and whatever. It was okay. um, it's one of those things where it's like it's easy to know what's going to happen tomorrow, and it's easy to know it's going to happen in the far future, and then everything in between are like all the little details that you don't know, kind of adding up. And so, that's been fun actually. And let's see what else is going on. Web features, organization, web creation, new models, trying to get to have struggling with the balance between like refining the current stuff versus building the next stuff. Some uncertainty around the timelines between the refinements of the current stuff and the next versions. We just don't know. And I think everything's we've been coming out with a new model like every month or so for the last few months. So I do think that it's kind of hard to everyone hears a baby. That's a good voice. Good audio. Close the window. It's a baby outside. Interesting. A baby is at least 800 feet away. There we go. I'll close the window. Yeah, so we've been doing a new model every month for the past few months. And certainly if we called the current stuff like a model release, we would have the next version within the next month. I just think we really wanted to do like a rolling release. I think that's the challenge. We want to get to a point where the models update every week. And I think we're really hopeful about that. And we just haven't been able to do it. So I'm sorry about that. I don't think we plan on taking the test stuff down in the next version. I don't know if I would commit to having all the current test features up forever. I think we want something like the current test models, and something like the current remaster models. But I don't know. We just see a lot of issues with the current ones, so we really do want to do better. So probably what we'll do at some point is when we have a version that's a lot better, we'll put everything up at the same time and let people kind of transfer over, rather than just sort of suddenly take things down. But there is a chance that we have some better. We have this new algorithm that kind of makes the composition more consistent on the test algorithms and also makes things look a bit nicer. And we will potentially release a new version the next week to test that. We're pretty sure we have that down to where we can kind of keep improving it. But I just think we don't know exactly when it's coming out because to be honest, we're working on like 12 things at the same time. And so doing like 12 things at once means that it's harder to predict the time scale for each specific thing. If we just did one thing, we would know exactly how soon. But it's just really hard right now that it's very unclear. I think we're in a really we're in that difficult position where it's really hard to choose one thing to work on. And so instead, I think we kind of have to sort of diversify and have more time uncertainty on each thing. So I'm hoping I can figure out some way to help us focus more in that way, but it's been really challenging because just it seems it's hard to describe, but like from the inside, there's like all these different things, and it's really hard, and they all seem really good and really important, and we're having a really hard time, weeding ourselves down to a smaller number. So, um, yeah. um, let's see what else is going on. The Discord server got bigger. I don't know if anyone noticed. The Discord server, I think, is 1.4 or 1.5 million now.
We just crossed 1.5 million earlier.
Yeah. So soon we will be bigger than the Minecraft server and the Fortnite server combined. That's cool. We are now the biggest Discord server in the world by I think like 600. We are the biggest Discord server in the world now, hands down. We'll I think in the next few weeks we'll be bigger than the next biggest few combined. This is the biggest Discord community server now, and it's going to get a lot bigger. And there's sort of it's going to get a bit weird as the Discord server gets bigger because we're kind of in uncharted territory for Discord. And so what that means is that we're going to try to keep growing, and then anything gets unstable, we hope that people tell us, and then we'll pull back a little. People are being pretty careful now with the server, so we haven't had a lot of issues actually. I'm pretty happy about that. Like the server may be 5 times bigger in a month. Like it's going to get really big, huge, as some of the people are saying. That's gonna be really interesting. I think we're trying to figure out what do we do to make a big server better. No one really knows. Like, there's never been a Discord server this big before. So anybody who has ideas on how to make a big server better, like drop them in the channels. Feedback channel, as always, is the best place. We do read everything in there. Let's see what else is going on. I mean, there's a tension between short term and long term. I think that's the number one thing on our minds right now. And there's going to be like crazy shit coming this year. And there should be some stuff coming in the next week or two. But basically, what comes in 2 weeks and what comes in a month is really hard for us to say right now. And I apologize for the uncertainty. It's just like new stuff. I feel like I have more to say, but I can't think of anything. Somebody said they want to talk to me about the web stuff. I mean, just we're going to have more of an independent web experience where you can build all of your stuff on the web without needing to use Discord. It certainly is not. It's not in no way a substitute for the like social experiences that you can have on Discord. But for the people who basically just do things by themselves, the web experience will probably be better. And I hope that actually the better web experience helps drive a better Discord experience. And it's got to be a bit of a race between improving the Discord experience and improving the web experience. And, the Discord stuff could end up being best and the web stuff could end up being best, but I think it's good to have more of those things. So I guess I'll just go to questions for a bit. I feel like I'm missing something, but I can't remember it. If anyone ever has that feeling, it's like, I know I'm missing something, I just can't think of it. Yeah, I think we should just do questions. Maybe. Oh, yes. We had a bit of a panel last time where we were talking about like sort of the nudity and the sort of moderation in general. And we bumped up the moderation a little bit, and then we added some sort of shadow bans to certain forms of content, so it'll never hit the front page. And So basically, hopefully the front page is nicer now. It feels nicer to me. Hopefully the website feels nicer and people aren't seeing stuff that's bothering them as much. And if you are, like, let us know. And we're going to keep trying to make it better. Um, yeah. The nudity test stuff started because there was some new open source stuff that got upgraded in the code base, and the new open source stuff was trained on porn. So in an ideal world, it would not have been trained on porn, and we were pretty upset about that. And we got a lot of it out, but it was. I found the person actually who did it, and they were just like, "Oh, it was 2 lines of code to filter the porn out," and we just didn't feel like doing it, and so it was unfortunate. Yeah, and so we have to be a little careful with the filtering because like we can get like bad feedback loops where like somebody makes really gory content and then all the gore people come and then everyone's just making gore. Did I say corn? Everyone's making gore or something like that. Corn. And like corn. Yeah, exactly. We're trying to avoid gornographic content. And just because you kind of get this feedback loop where basically that's all people do. And I mean, obviously, I think that there's more things to be creative about than like bloods and boobs. But yeah, we're probably going to definitely be more towards the. I think one day it's going to make sense for somebody to make like the AI porn service, and it makes sense for somebody to be this like the safe space, more focused on like general artistic exploration. And I think the latter is gonna be us. And I understand that like it's tricky sometimes because like everyone's like, well, sometimes art has boobs in it, and I don't know. That's obviously true. And then obviously also a lot of the places that used to have nudity in it, like women weren't allowed. So is it really always okay, or is it just horny dudes? I don't know. I mean, obviously anybody can no judgments, but I just think it's be really careful about feedback loops. And a lot of social networks become dominated by whatever feedback loops you allow in them. So right, so like sometimes Facebook gets dominated by sort of toxic, engaging content, and then Twitter becomes dominated by people just like saying, yeah, like a lot of people like just saying crazy stuff. And so like we don't really want to be a social system that's dominated by sort of the worst. Like what we don't really want to be dominated. Like we don't really want to be dominated by whatever feedback loops can happen, right? So it's like, yeah, everything could be porn, and everybody, and there are a lot of people who would like that, but then that's going to drive out a lot of wonderful people, and we don't like. It doesn't seem like a good trade off. Similarly with gore, and so yeah, somebody will make the Gorin platform one day. Somebody should get the somebody get the domain for that, but it's probably not going to be us. We are going to try to reduce the filtering over the next month. We have some thoughts that like we can teach the AI system what kind of images are good and what kind of images are bad. And then even if you ask it for something bad, like if you ask it for a nude person, there'll be like an object blocking all the, there'll be like an object or a branch like blocking things. And like it'll make blood, but it won't make gore, if that makes sense. Like there's a distinction between blood and gore and like nudity and art, and we're gonna try to see if we can get the system to learn that better. And theoretically, as it learns that better, we can relax the filters more and more to the point where hopefully you can have like I think the goal would be is like there's no word filters almost except for like slurs, and then it just doesn't make offensive images. So that's kind of a goal, but it's not like our number one priority. And I think I need to like emphasize that like our number one priority is not like letting people type boobs into things more easily. Like it's just who cares? That's obviously not the most important thing to focus on. However, it's obvious that like a lot of words have gotten and over time to try to make the content in space safe. And that if there's ways to pull back on that so that people can have the freedom of language, but that the images kind of still come out in a nice way, that's obviously better. So I think we have some good ideas on how to do that, and we're moving towards it over the next month. Yeah, and I think every week or two we'll have some people come up and get their feelings on things and make sure we're going in the right direction. But I think the soft like the shadow bands, I think has worked out pretty well. I'm feeling good about that. Like let it go for another week and see how things are feeling. Yeah, and we're also getting an increasingly better sense of how much we can improve the image generation side, just to kind of avoid making images that would kind of keep them artistic. That's what I would say. People aren't shadow banned. It's more of like if the images have certain words in them, then they will just never show up on the social system. Other people won't see them. Yeah. So that's it. Pretty excited about all the new stuff coming out. Wish I had better timelines for things, but we're gonna just work really hard and try to build really good stuff. With that, I think we'll open up to questions and yeah, see how things go. That was exactly 30 minutes. Wow. Yeah, see you there.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize my. Yes. All right. It's fixed. So I had a question about a feature that's probably a fairly common request. And I know you were talking about trying to figure out what to prioritize and what people need. And when I'm browsing like the main page on the website, like the top images that get generated, if you like look at a particular image and then go back to see how they got there, quite often, there'll be like an image that was good, but it was cut off in some way. And it would be like in a lot of cases, I think that we would benefit quite a bit from even being able to zoom out a little bit. I know that you've said that this is something that you've wanted to consider doing before. I'm just wondering, first of all, like how difficult would it be to do like a zoom out feature on, let's say, an upscale? So you have your upscale and there's just a button to say like zoom it out 20% or something. And then is that like, and like, would that be something that would be hard to implement, first of all, I guess?
I mean, nothing's hard, but we just don't have a lot of people right now. So
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're generally focused on I think right now, like our main focus are on features that like everybody will use, and so it means that some of the advanced features are going to just take longer, even if we could get them sooner.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard, right? Because like we could literally implement 100 features, like 100 advanced features, and then something's going to not work, and someone's going to be like, "Oh, this one feature doesn't work," and then we have to stop whatever we're doing and try to fix the edge cases. And basically, we almost already have more features than people. Have to be really careful with like adding new features. To be honest.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess
Get to it,
I'm just
but it is.
suggesting.
But
Sorry.
I'd rather address the core issue. Like right now, the new models. Right now, the new models were trained at an issue with the training where they were cropping the images in ways they shouldn't, and we should just fix that. So I would, instead of me creating a feature to fix bad crops, I'd rather just fix the bad cropping issue. If that makes sense, that makes a lot more sense for me. Like fixing the fundamental cause rather than adding a new feature on top.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of like good like shots of an image where it is cropped, and you might just want like the top half of a person, and that's actually what they're going for. But I'm just thinking like there seems to be a lot of cases. I would say I would basically suggest that maybe this is actually a feature that I think the majority of people would actually find a use for. Plus, it would also double as if you can actually do that, like if you could zoom out and then zoom out again and again, people will be able to create a series of images that, and animate it as well, which would probably be more of an edge case. But I think a lot of people would use it. Anyway, we can move on from that.
That's definitely true. I think we're definitely more focused right now on just trying to make the croppings better. There's like less of an issue with the really obviously badly cropped images.
Mm-hmm.
We have a fix for that actually. We figured out why that happened. We just haven't pushed it yet because we're kind of still balancing the creativity and the compositionality of the systems. Yeah, it's a good reminder. Like, it's definitely something that we should do at some point.
Cool.
I think we're just trying to figure out how to not get buried by features. Um, yeah. But it is a good idea. We should do it.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you for reminding us.
Yeah, no problem. Should I do another one, or do you want to go to the next person?
If you want to do one more quick one, I'm cool. But then we'll probably try to keep everybody,
Sounds good.
try to keep. Mhm.
So last week I was asking about being able to gift hours through emotes just really conveniently and easily on Discord. And you mentioned the sugar daddy problem, which honestly at first I didn't really understand until I sat down and thought about it, and I realized that there would just be like a server full of people begging for hours and being reliant on it. And I think I feel like I understand it better now. So I was wondering if you would consider doing something like that, but only for those that are on the $30 monthly sub plan, since they have relaxed mode anyway, so that the sugar daddy problem kind of goes away. And someone else asked in chat, like what the percentages of people on the $30 a month plan, kind of related.
Yeah, I think we definitely want to do gifting. It's just trying to figure out the right way to do it. I think I'm less worried about, like, people can already afford the $30 plan, and they can probably afford like the extra fast hours too. It's more of the gifting to me is most interesting as a way to get people on the platform who couldn't afford to be on the platform otherwise. And so, like, the best way to do that I have right now is like make it so you can buy like a year-long subscription for somebody else and give it to them really easily.
Mm.
Giving somebody a year-long subscription, you don't really have the sort of sugar daddy dynamics because like you've given them a year subscription, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what I would be most interested in doing. But yeah, like we literally like the bot, like we literally have things going down every day, and we're like we have all these different things going on. So like we it's like we have to like throw ourselves entirely at adding new features, and it just so we're just not going to be we're trying our best, but we're just not going to be good at like adding in all the possible features that we could add in the short term. But we are thinking of doing some kind of like buying somebody else a membership. Like some of the corporations do that anyway. They want to buy like 10 seats, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of similar. It's like almost like getting a coupon code for someone else, buying a thing, like, something that you could get a coupon code for. I think we'll do that. Like, that's probably the first thing we're going to do. Yeah, I think the things and then we're also going to try to figure out ways to like give away more free hours to people who are like rating images and stuff like that. So I think those are probably the two areas, like getting free stuff, like buying other people memberships or getting free hours. And maybe one day we're actually going to have a tier that like people can just rate images and like not have to pay anything, like a free tier, basically. I think that would be probably the more interesting direction to go. And I don't know what that would look like. It's not something we're doing in the short term, but the idea that like once we have a pipeline, data is really, really useful to us, and we can verify if the data is good or bad. It might make sense to have a certain number of users who basically can use the service for free in exchange for kind of constantly helping us with that data. We could probably support like a good number of like, we're hoping that with like the right kind of labeling system, we'll be able to support basically a good number of people who probably couldn't pay anything otherwise, but who have like functioning brains and imaginations. Yeah. To me, the two directions of the pricing basically come to like, how do we let people on the platform who like literally can't afford it? And then how do we let people who have like unlimited money spend the money more easily and more efficiently? Those kind of be the two areas that are extreme.
Mm.
Everything in the middle, which is like, I want to save somebody $4, it just doesn't matter, I think, comparatively. Because there's yeah, the people who have unlimited money, they have these big projects that are like important, like if it's, it could be like Kanye West or something, and they have a thing they need to do, and like they just want to be able to do this big project, and and I think that's important to like let people do those, and then the other side is like, literally wonderful people who can't afford the thing or don't have a credit card, even if they're like younger people on the platforms, and just trying to give them ways to use it. I think those are the two most important for me.
I guess like the perspective I'm thinking of is it's not so much about getting hours, rather it's more about like showing appreciation. So like you can actually use an emote on an image, or you just to someone who's helped you, let's say, put together a prompt, and then you're able to just use an emote to like gift them an hour or something, right? So it's I guess it's just turning it around a little bit, because it's not about hours, it's about like showing appreciation and being able to share and give something of value, to someone.
Yeah, I like that as an idea of like building community. I think there's potentially like some disproportionate value to helping the community on that side. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's a good thought.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I just wanted to ask about the remaster feature. Do you think that it will be something that goes on into the future? Like, maybe not in all cases, but that will, in many cases, be able to bring old stuff up to new levels?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something long term there. I don't know if it'll be exactly like how it is now. We might like make it more controllable, like so you can take any version, any other version, but or like be able to control how much it changes it. But I do think there's definitely something long term there. Like I've really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, like I don't even really work in the new modes anymore, because just working with V3 and remastering is easily getting me the best stuff I've ever gotten. And then you have this growing list of images that you have that's basically like data that you can just start bringing into the future and exploring the concept more and more. So I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really special. Yeah, especially when the image prompts don't work yet on the newer algorithms, but when they do, like being able to literally combine 3 different images you made before and stuff like that, like that's all going to be game too.
Right. Nice.
So I agree with you. I think I've been really happy actually with that workflow. I think, to be honest, that's still like my favorite workflow for making nice images right now. Is I'll try to make like a V3 image that's like kind of sloppy and really vibey, and then I'll try to clean it up with remaster. I think that's been pretty nice. Yeah.
Cool. That was just my question. Thank you.
I know exactly what I hope. I mean, to be honest, I kind of hope that like our next version is like gives you images that are better than the remaster images, but just like a lot of them all at once in one step, but like it's like I hope that the general experience is kind of like that, but just better across the board. But then the idea of like, so you won't need it to make good images, but I like the idea of being able to like pull images through time as things get newer and newer, I think that's definitely special.
Awesome.
I guess I would even thank the community. Somebody in the community actually figured out a way to kind of get the remaster thing like by mistake on one of their images. We were like, oh, that's a cool idea. And then we actually shipped it like a few days later. So it was actually somebody in the community who kind of came up with the concept. So I don't know basically who it was, but yeah, thank you to the community for actually like kind of, that's probably like, yeah, definitely like it might be the first major community feature that everybody's using. I think is a remaster one. It was like, yeah, it was like come up with by the community. So I think that's been really great. Yeah, I've been really the more that we can channel the community for like ideas and where to go, and like I think the better. That's really exciting. Happy everyone's been having fun with it.
Cool. Thank you.
There, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi. So I just wanted to go over a few things. I know those of us that have been attending these office hours have heard you hint at some of the things in the future, like bigger grids and larger upscales, and obviously better algorithms full of larger models. And what I'm wondering, if I could just sort of lump this into one question, is are we hitting a point where the tech is the possibilities of the tech are growing faster than the resources of the hardware? Like I'm worried about when I see like a 5 to 7 megabyte upscale file size, I start wondering about the CDN. When I see 2 images instead of 4 with the new test algorithms, I see we're using more computation power. I can only assume that problem will continue into the future if we get like 200 billion parameter model, things like that. So how does, and I've also heard you hint at possibly getting fast hours for the money. And so the question is, how does this all happen in the future without kind of grinding to a halt or just costing way more?
What will probably happen at some point is that there'll be a price bifurcation. So like at some point we'll probably do a $20 plan, which will only have certain cheaper features. And then like the $30 plan will be the more like basically I think at some point we're going to have a cheaper plan that's limited in which algorithms you can use. And then the $30 plan will basically keep being the plan where we have more and more expensive stuff over time. We could make an even higher plan. I've thought about. There will probably be a $60 plan at some point. There'll probably be actually a higher plan at some point. But basically, what's going to happen is we're going to try to keep giving people better and better stuff at the existing price points. And then at some point, we're going to basically create new plans that are both more expensive and cheaper, which will either have like more features or fewer features to kind of give people like as much as we can, basically. I think the pricing will probably handle most of that.
So I think that's a fair answer, but sorry, I want to ask one more thing about these file sizes because I'm just curious. Like you guys are hosting all of our images that we generate ever, and I'm just wondering, it isn't going to increase a lot of cost for you. Like, will you always host all of our images? Is kind of what I'm asking you. Like, is this ever going to be a problem, or does it always take care of itself with the, you know?
Right now, the cost to host the images is probably like 1% of the cost of making the images. So as long as there's like a core business that's paying to create images, like by paying to create images, you're paying also to like store everybody else's images, you know? And so as long as there's like enough people paying to make images, I don't think we'll have any issues storing them. If suddenly like nobody wanted to pay for images, then we would still be like kind of like footing the storage bill of all images forever. And then we'd probably be pressured to like go back and replace all the images with compressed versions. Cause right now we like give everyone PNGs. So it's like basically uncompressed. And you know, at some point we feel pressure to like go back and compress them all basically. Then I guess at some point, like we would feel pressure to do something, but I think those are all like pretty bad. Like those are all situations where something terrible has happened. And so I'm hoping that that doesn't happen. Right now, we've been growing a lot every month. And so, and the active users are paying for the storage of all the other users. Like I would also emphasize that like, really like anybody who's in the top 10% of users, and like you probably know who you are, like we're actually like we're losing money on the top users now because the rest of the users are kind of paying enough, if that makes sense. Like we were careful about this at first. Like for a few months ago, we said we don't want to lose money on anybody because it's the first time we tried doing that, the top people like wiped us out. But as like there's a bigger and bigger community that's sort of like having more and more extra capital, we've done things like reduce the relax mode time to like be a lot better. And that means that like we lose money on relax mode now, but it doesn't matter because there's enough other people supporting the service that we can afford to do that. So if anything right now, I would say that we're doing a bunch of things that are kind of like losing money, but it's okay because we have a really supportive community and everyone's kind of supporting each other, you know? And so it feels pretty good right now. Like we're doing pretty good there. Hope is that over time, the costs go down a lot. I don't know how much storage cost goes down. I've never looked at that, but certainly the compute cost is going down. And so I think sometime in the next sometime in the next few months, there'll be something as good as all the current algorithms today, but probably like 4 times cheaper. And then there'll be these new algorithms that'll be like way more expensive, like 4 times more expensive, but also like crazy good. And so basically at that point, you'll have versions of the service that are like using the simple algorithms only and much cheaper, and then versions of the service that, you know, have access to everything and are more expensive potentially. I don't know. I can't exactly say what that's going to feel like because I haven't seen the super systems yet. Right now, what it looks like is that nobody ever wants to use the cheaper stuff. Every time we do a survey, I ask people like, do you want us to make things cheaper or do you want us to make things better at the same price? Everyone keeps telling us that they want us to make things better at the same price. And I know that's somewhat biased because people who can't afford the current price are not answering the surveys. But there's definitely like a drive to quality. And I think that's our #1 priority. At least quality at the same price. Like we don't want to do anything that's 10 times more expensive.
So I just want to say thank you for answering my questions, and also I know a lot of us have been like all over the web using every possible model that exists, and there's no doubt in my mind at this moment that MidJourney is like the top producer of the best images, and so I just want to thank you for that. It's been amazing beta, amazing experience, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, we are really trying to focus on quality and details. I think people underestimate this sometimes, but like like I guess the whole idea of like craftsmanship is that details matter. And I mean, I would say like everybody here is sort of a craftsman. You know, you're crafting these images, and then on our side, we really do work day and night to put craftsmanship into the core engine itself, so that you can do the best stuff you can do. You know, and we really do like. Before we send anything out to you all, we've looked at like 10,000 images in each of these models across all, like, you know, thousands of prompts, and we really do like we put there's a level of attention of detail. I hope people see. Yeah. As somebody was like yeah, the idea like somebody put like 2 words into our systems and it looks beautiful. That's like really important to us, you know, because most people don't know what they want. And I think iterating with fewer numbers of words like lets you kind of think more quickly, and that's really cool. And just trying to make it so it always looks nice. I don't know. Trying to make it more creative too has been really challenging and interesting. Like we're kind of I think most of the other AI labs are just trying to focus on like if you say the word dog, it looks like a photo of a dog. Whereas for us, we're really trying to figure out like what do people really want and like what like sort of trying to understand like the deeper nature of like aesthetics and creativity and like what is it like, and really trying to, and there's a lot of new science there. It's like quantitative aesthetics. We're trying to understand like literally what makes something beautiful and what makes something creative and like what makes something coherent and clear, and like what are the trade-offs between those things. Can you just get everything? And there's a lot of like new science there, and it's been really exciting, honestly, behind the scenes trying to understand like, yeah, like a sort of deeper nature of beauty, like how much is universal and how much is personal. I think a lot of people feel like that, you know, that beauty is like a relative thing, but I think that's fair to say that's not entirely true. Like, yeah, flowers are beautiful, right? But like, is the flower beautiful because we think it's beautiful, or is the flower actually trying to be beautiful? I think it's fair to say that the flowers have evolved to be beautiful to like insects. And then for some reason, the flower is beautiful to the insect and it's also beautiful to us. And so there's almost like shared aesthetics in nature between the flower and us and the bee, that we all think this thing is beautiful. And so there's definitely like a large component of beauty, which is sort of and natural. And that's really interesting to think about that. There's also certainly like a degree of personal beauty. That's really interesting. And then there's also definitely it looks like there might be some trade-offs between not necessarily coherence and creativity, but like creativity and consistency. It's like if you have a master of some art, they'll be very consistent. They'll make things that are consistently beautiful. But sometimes you need like somebody who doesn't really know things yet to kind of make something that's beautiful and new. And so like the beautiful and new and beautiful and consistent may actually be two different things. And trying to understand that's been really interesting lately. I think like 2 months ago, it was pretty easy to fine tune these systems. Like I could spend 4 hours looking at pictures and I could say, this is better than this. And now we're starting to get to the point where like a lot of the pictures are so beautiful that it's almost hard for us to judge anymore, like what these systems should be. And that's honestly, I didn't mention this. This has actually been one of our struggles of the last week or two. Is like we were going to make the next version look nicer, and it's starting to get to the point where like, oh my god, I don't even know which one's nicer. They're all so nice. And so we're trying really hard to get that over the line, but we might end up at some point turning it over to the community, where like the community might have like a new rating activity where you rate different images from different versions of the system, and you actually help steer the tuning of the system more and more to where maybe we don't even do it anymore. Maybe just the community itself is like entirely tuning the system without us, which would be cool. Cause then it could be like kind of like rolling and changing constantly. Like it does change a little bit right now. Like we do use data from the community to change things, but it's like, usually we look at it first and then we turn some knobs and then we push it. It's very like intentional. And I think there's definitely like a path to where it is sort of fully automatic, hands off the wheels. And I don't know when we're going to do that, but I'm very excited to try that at some point because that'll be like a very unique thing that's never happened before.
So I just want to interject one idea and then wrap up this let Maddie talk. But so you were talking about what makes things beautiful, this commonality with the act and a flower. And I think a lot of us have heard of the Fibonacci sequence and the gold. And a lot of art and artists in the past have followed those type of grids that are like square spirals that follow the. I wondered if it would be possible to have an initialization that relies on the type of grid to sort of tell.
Picking up a little bit, I can't quite make out.
Oh, I'm saying if it might be possible to do an image prompt or an image initialization across like a golden mean grid, so something that's going to follow the Fibonacci sequence due to the way it was initialized. I've wondered if that could help make things beautiful automatically, because great artists follow the Fibonacci sequence a lot of times in their layout, and so I know noise doesn't always do that, and so I just thought that could be a way to explore that for you guys. That's it.
Yeah, we haven't actually looked at that before. It's an interesting idea. I have no idea. Worth thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would say that like early on in MidJourney, we were probably tuning things more like manually to what is beautiful. And over time, like the sense of beauty is becoming more and more built into the system from the users, which is really interesting. Like hard to know where it goes. In some ways, like everybody right now who's part of the community is like, potentially like helping to define like what beauty is and what like the future of aesthetics will be. So that's like really kind of cool and exciting, kind of beautiful in itself.
Hey, David, do you mind if I interject a question?
Sure, go ahead.
One of the questions I asked, and you brought this up in the previous conversation, that there's new research done around creativity in science. And it's interesting because from a philosophical perspective, there's new research being done on the philosophy of creativity, which is a relatively new philosophy. So I'm interested to see if you thought about if AI could actually be creative, which is kind of a simple but complex question, because then you have to define what creativity is. So the first question is, do you think AI could be creative? And then we can sort of branch out from there.
I don't think that there's a lot of nuance around what creativity is right now. I think there are different forms of creativity. So I think that like blending two things together, like cyberpunk and like onions. Probably no one's done a cyberpunk onion before in the history of humans. And like the first interpretation of a cyberpunk onion, is that a creative act? Probably, yeah. And these systems are very good at blending things. I think that the current AI is basically human level at blending concepts. And that's probably honestly one of the most delightful things about it that people enjoy doing. And blending things is sort of one form of maybe creativity, but it is not like the only form of creativity. And I guess like stepping back, like creativity is like the properties of, like the nature of, like the nature and properties of creating things. So like obviously a system like this, which can create things, will share some of the properties of creating with people. But at the same time, like I think the area where it's not creative is that like an artist is not just a source of pictures. And like art is often about stories and emotion. And this system has no stories or emotion inside of it. Those come from you. And so, like, I don't know, I feel like if somebody tries to make something that's artistic with the system, I feel like they're the artist. And like, is this a paintbrush that is designed to make beautiful things? But is it alive? No, it's like literally, it's like water. It's like a river, and you can like throw a stone into a river, and the river will shape the stone. The stone may be beautiful, but like it's just like a flow of water. It's a natural thing. You can, I don't know, like the beauty that comes out of it is some combination of like natural beauty, like the same, like when you see a beautiful cloud, to like any time that somebody takes a stone and shapes something to tell a story or to do a task. So I think that, can this system shape stones? Yes. Can it like blend things? Yes. But can it like, does it have a story to tell? No. Does it have emotions? No. Does it have intentions? Does it have ideas? Not really. It doesn't really have any of those things. Can it make like a weird picture of an onion, like by chance? Sure. But I think that is sort of like the same chance of like throwing a rock into a river and then having something weird happen. Like, yeah, sometimes like weird stuff happens. Is that a creative act? No, like, yeah, I guess like every seashell comes from the sea, but is the ocean creative? Not. Like all the beautiful stones that come from the river, is the river creative? No, I don't think so. So,
Right.
I don't know. Is the system creative? No, it doesn't have. Now, like, can it shape stones? Can it make beautiful things? Can beauty come out of it? Yes. But like, it's one of those. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I think there's. I think a lot of the thing is like a lot of it is almost like it's some combination of like. I think the creativity and beauty of like the MidJourney as a system by itself, like if you type random words into it, to me, I think is closer to the beauty and creativity of like a cloud. You know, like they're like sort of these random chaotic swirls of air and vapor that make these beautiful shapes and wisps, and we don't really have words for it. And it's obviously beautiful, but it has like no intention, or it has no intention or beliefs or ideas or will or. I think it gets a little confusing because it's not totally random. Like it is random, but also like what fact that what people admit what the MidJourney community finds to be beautiful then like shapes the beauty of the thing is unusual. In some ways it's less like the beauty of clouds and it's more like the beauty of the flower. So like another metaphor would be is that like that the MidJourney images aren't like clouds, they're like flowers, and then like you're a bee, you know, and the bees over time kind of decide what the flowers look like. So
Sure.
it's kind of evolving with you. It's kind of evolving with people
Yeah.
to be beautiful, and so it's this it's a co-evolution, and like the flowers affect the bees, and the bees affect the flowers. It's still not alive. It's not alive like a flower, but it is changing like a flower, and yeah. I like the bee is kind of funny, right? Because like we take the pollen from we like take the images and we spread them, so we're like spreading the pollen, you know, and the images are trying to be beautiful, so that will spread them in some way. But like we do have more of an impact. We have more of an impact on the we have more of an impact on the images, and the evolution occurs very rapidly versus bees. Like for example, like you'll show a picture to somebody else and they'll see the prompt and they'll make more similar images, and then people will like those images and the system will learn to make more images more like that. It's a weird co-evolutionary system. I don't really have quite words for it. It's like a new thing. Like sometimes it's like more of a like it might be like the imagination of a transhuman hive mind. Like everyone's kind of coming together and forming this sort of like super imaginative entity almost. And like I don't know. Like there's a lot of I don't really know how to look at it. There's a lot of ways of looking at it, and it's
Yeah.
all kind of true.
Yeah. It seems like it's a representation of all of our input. And for the levels of creativity, I think it's fair to say that you have combinational creativity, which you alluded to, and I think it gets more interesting when we discover what exactly imagination is, and then have algorithms designed around imagination to produce more images. But yeah, thanks for answering my questions around creativity.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really about like stories, not about pictures. And so I think we're still at the stage actually where people are like, everyone's just sort of like started on how beautiful the pictures are. But one day we'll get used to it, and then it's going to be about telling stories.
Yeah.
And that's like the and to express things, you know. We're not going to make a version where I don't think we're ever going to make the version where it tells stories by itself or it doesn't need us, you know. I think we're very much trying to create something that feels like an extension of your own mind, you know, and sort of like and something that like pushes the boundaries of aesthetics and mediums, and like it's like a reflective tool. Like we're very much not trying to make we have zero interest in making like an AI artist or anything like that, something that replaces people or whatever. It's not interesting to us. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hanson, you're up. If you're trying to talk, we cannot hear you. All right, I guess we'll try to come back to D. Hanson later. NSU, you're up.
Hello, David. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I mean, I've been like kind of piling up some like thoughts that for the past weeks I've been listening to this, and yeah, I just noted them here, trying to convey them to you as best as I can. But the first thing was like when the first beta came out, right? At least for me, it seemed as if like I don't know, the data bus was like kind of different or something, because the way it would pick up certain prompts about like more contemporary references, the V3 didn't. So like, does that model in specific and the test model that followed it up have like some different way on where they're training? Like, are they trained in a different way than the previous ones?
The newer models have more data and they understand more. They know more concepts than the older
Ah, I see.
models.
And does
So our
the
goal is that like the models in the future should have as much knowledge and concepts as possible, because it's sort of more more paints to kind of make with.
I see. And do these models and the ones that you guys are like on development, do they use the amount of images that the users generate for the own data set? Are they trained on the images the users create?
No, the images are just from the internet, and then the thing that the thing that it's mostly using the users for is trying to understand like beauty and creativity.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't like if it can already make a picture of a cat, it doesn't need a picture of a cat generated with itself to learn about cats, you know? But
Yeah,
if there's a certain picture of a cat that everybody really likes, then that teaches it something, you know?
yeah.
So it
So
uses kind of the internet to learn about concepts, and then it uses the users to like learn about like beauty and expression and what people actually want. Um, yeah.
So so when I mean, I heard you guys talk about this before. I think I read it in the announcements when you guys say that I mean, in the future, not right now, you were like you wanted to go in the direction where the actual model itself would adapt to the style of the user, meaning like the images that the user rates of itself, would the model adapt itself to the style of the user?
Yeah, yeah, we're looking at doing that. We were gonna do it earlier, but I think honestly, all the new algorithms have kind of scrambled our brains, and so I think we need to like want to try to have like a new algorithm base that we're happy with for a little bit, and then we'll probably add all the features in to like adapt to specific people.
Hmm. And just a minute ago, you said like you wanted, when you released the beta and the test, like for this newer model that you guys are developing, you wanted like a mix between those and or like the best of both worlds between those and the previous models. Do you think that like trying to find a middle term between those models, are you just trying to mesh up the best of both, or does trying to make a middle term between both comes at like at the expense of some aspects of the model, like the realism or something like that?
Um, I think we're still figuring it out. I think that the current system has a lot of really bad things. The test systems have a lot of really bad things about it. And so, but there are some good things about it. And one of the things that we're doing behind the scenes is we're training like 10 different versions of everything and trying to figure out like which parts are helping and which parts are hurting. And then we're trying to kind of slowly add together all the stuff that helps. So like the new model reads words very differently than the old model does. And I think we know that the way it reads words is worse. But it has a bigger model for understanding language. So it knows more words. And knowing more words is good. And so we're trying to kind of combine the goods and remove the bads and just kind of it's gonna that's why it takes a while. So like for every one model that people are seeing, we're training like 5 versions in the background. And so we're kind of slowly figuring out the science of this, and no one actually knows like any of this stuff before. It's all brand new knowledge. So we're kind of learning day by day, like what do people want, and then what actually causes the things that people want. What makes it vibey, and what makes it good at understanding words or bad at understanding words, and how do you give it more knowledge, and how do you make beautiful things? These are all like things that nobody knows anywhere, and it's something that we're kind of trying to figure out as we're going.
Yeah, you're talking about like community turning. Was that what you said just a minute ago? Like, I feel like what you guys created here is developing a huge culture, and when you talk about community tuning, I think you mean like in general, like making the community try to guide the direction where the model to think what the model should think is beautiful and what isn't. But what I thought was like every set of like big community divides into like this subset community. So for example, I don't know if you guys do this already, but if you collect a certain group of people, and these people do like the images they generate are more for like the Y2K type of aesthetic. This other group does more like vaporwave type stuff, or this other does like more like Picasso antique, like modernist style. It wouldn't it make more sense that a subset of a community that this group all does kind of fits on the same style, tunes the model to fit that type of style the best?
Yeah, so we don't know. It's kind of a question of like how much of beauty is universal and how much of beauty is very specific, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And right now it does it is learning a lot of that already across different styles, but maybe it could be better. I don't think we really fully know yet. So we are going to try doing a model in the next month that like does one kind of art. We're going to see and we'll let people like rate that one kind of art and see if that one thing gets way better. I think we're going to do a test for this, and we'll see if if doing one kind of art, if having a model that does one kind of art works way better and gets way better really quickly. And if it does, then that'll be interesting. But we don't know if that's actually true yet. So we're definitely going to try some stuff like that. And then also we're going to keep trying to make supermodels that just do everything. My gut is that the supermodel becomes what people mostly use all the time. There might be like a few specific models that people like for certain areas. Yeah. I definitely prefer supermodels versus lots of models because it's easier for us. Like it's hard to have a model for every kind of art,
Yeah, I just when I thought about this, I just thought about how when you said community tuning, and uh, if you pick the people on a certain style that excel the most at that style, I feel like it would be much clearer for the model to know what that style, those people that work on that style want, and make it so the response would be much more accurate. That's what I think. But the
trying to
last,
figure that out. Like we're trying to figure out like what's the best way to get more accurate data for things. And the current system is not that great, but we think we can come up with something better. We don't know what it's going to be yet. So definitely in the next month or two, we're going to have like really different ways for people to like help train the system. And we're thinking about that a lot. We just don't know yet what it's going to look like, to be honest.
I see. Just to close my time here, I don't want to take much time. It's just some time ago, you guys made an announcement for like the submission of like projects that would maybe be posted on the MidJourney socials. Does MidJourney already have socials, or are you guys still
There
working on
is.
it?
They're not necessarily very active right now, and we are a little behind on those things. Yeah, we're pretty behind on those things. We would like to do better, but it's just I think we've been focused on making like we had some people who wanted to come in and help with that, but we've been just kind of a little overwhelmed and just trying to working on the core stuff. So I mean, uh, um, there's going to always be other companies who are better at us at social media. And at the end of the day, it doesn't get us excited every day. You know?
A handful of us have been working on stuff related to that behind the scenes, though, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's a new Facebook group and there's a Twitter account. I think they're all kind of minimal because like this is kind of the core community place right here. There might be some stuff on Instagram at some point. But it's just I think this is the core of the community. And then yeah, I think we definitely want to like promote people. I just haven't figured out yet exactly what that's going to look like. So yeah, I think right now I'm definitely more focused on the product side, to be honest, because so much of the core stuff is going to change over the next few months. I'm just trying like really hard to push it into the next like era of technology.
Yeah, I mean, I just it probably will reach a point where you guys, it's inevitable to expand the team, but for myself, I'm really grateful, and I think I speak for a lot of people that you guys keep. It would be so easy to keep not to go for a community type project. Instead, you guys keep doing this type of office hours and stay in touch with feedback and stuff, and I really appreciate that. Just want to say that.
I think we're in it for the long term, and like having like a long term community of like creative people to me seems like one of the coolest things in the world. And that like motivates me a lot. Yeah. Um, a lot of people just want to get likes on Twitter, and I don't really care about that. I've never even tweeted about MidJourney on my Twitter account. I'm not in this for like attention or like anything like that. I just want to like make cool stuff and have like a cool community of people and have fun. And I don't know, like that's all that you can do really,
Yeah.
and help people too, but I think we're helping people.
I think you're helping people for sure. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi. So you were talking a moment ago about just sort of the idea of preferring one large supermodel versus having to deal with a bunch of different models, and that kind of I've been wondering this for a while, if you foresee a point in the near future where you're going to kind of retire the older versions of MidJourney, and like particularly version 1 and 2. Do you see a point where those just won't be available anymore, or do you want to try and preserve like some kind of a usable timeline of its development, like in the long term?
If we take one of those down, we'll open source them.
Oh, okay.
Our current thought is like if we take like eventually we'll take something offline, and when we do, we'll open source it. But it's hard to know when we do that. We're not feeling a lot of pressure right now to take anything offline. Like those systems are just stable. I think one day we will, and then when we do, we'll open.
Cool. Yeah,
because sourcing some of those things will be great, actually. So.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, just as like version 2 is still, I probably use it just as much as the test model, if not more, because it's just so good at certain sort of weird textures and the way that it deals with color, and it's still the best, in my opinion, the best out of all of them at doing weird sort of grimy Polaroid photos, which I really love doing with it. And that kind of brings me to my second question, which is, I remember a couple office hours ago you were talking about how your kind of long-term vision for MidJourney is more oriented around pushing the boundaries of art making aesthetically, and making the types of visuals that AI is sort of uniquely suited to make, rather than going a more like photorealistic, like AI photography type route. And I was wondering if over the time that beta and test have been used and people have been experimenting with more photorealistic things, I was wondering if you've been swayed at all in that, because one of my favorite things to do with MidJourney is to sort of create hypothetical photographs of like impossible things, of sort of visuals that are strange and implausible, but because you sort of imbue them with like the characteristics of photography medium, particularly like film photography, kind of does this interesting thing to the eye where your eye recognizes that the subject is impossible or strange or fantastical, but the sort of circumstantial artifacts of the medium are familiar, and they imply a certain kind of like some sort of a viewer who's capturing that image, and so it creates almost like an even more fantastical suggestion that I think is also unique. That AI is like uniquely suited to kind of create this idea of strange and fantastical photography. I feel like it's something that nothing can do except AI. So I was wondering if as someone who has experience as a photographer, if you've thought more about that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like a place for realistic creativity, like realistic styled creative content. I do think that I prefer things that are kind of like transcendental, like they feel like that they're sort of like super real, but like they're not. Like I think when we had the earlier beta, like it could sometimes make things that look like deep fakey. And the problem with the deep fakes is that like your body will like literally not know if the image is real or not, and then you start like doubting like all real things, and then you start like, and then sometimes it just looks really uncanny and like kind of dead. And I don't like that. That was really bad. But then we shifted it a bit. So like now the new test ones are making like realistic images. They look really realistic, but they often don't, like you can look at them and instantly on like a physiological level that it's not a real image, but it looks realistic and it kind of serves all the purpose of a realistic image,
Right.
without actually like feeling like you could publish it as a deep fake, and
Right.
I've been pretty happy with that. Like we pulled it, like when we pulled it one step backwards, I think we both pulled it away from deep fakes, but we also like made it like doesn't look uncanny anymore. Like it's hard to get an uncanny valley picture out of it, I think now, whereas it was really easy with the test. Well, the first version we did, the beta version.
Right. Yeah.
Never get something that like is it's hard to get something that's like indistinguishably real, but I think that part is just kind of like it's almost like a pornographic quality. It's like, oh man, that tomato looks really like a tomato. I can't tell it doesn't look like a tomato. I don't really know. That's definitely not as artistic, and it's not as about creative expression. It's just about this like, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
mean, for me, there's
like,
a really interesting like distinction between like photographic and photorealistic, where there's so much about things that happen almost intentionally in photography that are kind of beyond like the realism like of the subject. And so it would be interesting if at some point kind of later in the future when like MidJourney is particularly more sophisticated and it's oriented in the direction that you want it to go in a sort of creative and aesthetic way, if it still sort of has the capacity to not necessarily deliver like photorealistic results in terms of the subject matter, but that it's still well educated and well trained on things like film grain or light leaks or perspective or bokeh or like other types of like visual kind of flares that we all sort of take for granted as being part of a lot of different artistic mediums, but we forget that they sort of come from photography or they come from cinematography. And so I'm wondering if that's something that's interesting for you as kind of like combining that sort of hyper real, the kind of pure sort of futurism of creating images that are sort of irrespective of photorealism, but sort of still having the sophistication and the control over, kind of introducing elements that are like reminiscent of photography in a medium sense.
Yeah, I think I like film and I like photography, and the heritage of those things are all good. I think the main goal is just to like steer away from like things that are either too deep, like the things that literally just feel like deep fakes. You know what I mean? or things that feel like a normal picture you'd see on Google image search. You know, like ideally any picture that people like. Ideally, we would have like a photographic mode where like any picture somebody makes with it is like is like beautiful and transcendent in a way where if you saw it come up on Google image search, you'd be like, whoa, what is that? You know?
Right.
I think that would be like, that's like a cool accomplishment. And it's a little bit of a challenge because the raw models that these are based on, they don't actually want to make beautiful pictures. They just want to make like really generic, kind of uncanny Google image search pictures that are, I think, generally kind of gross. And so the interesting element is actually not like, and it kind of makes sense, right? Because by default, it just tries to learn the data and duplicate the data, but it doesn't do a good job. So it's always going to look like a little uncanny. So it's going to make like uncanny looking Google image pictures by default. And so a lot of the challenge of the MidJourney technology stack right now is going from that to like beautiful and transcendental stuff, you know, and making it really easy. Like pushing the AI away from being mundane and like towards like pushing away from the mundane towards the transcendent, I guess, you know? And as long as it has like a feeling of like super real, or like as long as it has a feeling of like the transcendent or super real or dreamy in some way, I think I'm good with it. If it's literally just like Tom Hanks crying at a beach, you know, ultra realistic with gore, it's like, I don't know, we don't need that. Like, you know?
Yeah, that almost goes more in the direction of sort of pure the nerdery of AI, the sort of like, let's see what we can do just purely from a technological like standpoint, rather than integrating the kind of aesthetic philosophy into like what the implications of the technology are and what those implications, the places that those implications take you aesthetically. Sort of stops before that kind of aesthetic consideration and just, it's like how sort of accurately in a purely scientific sense can this technology mimic our own experience of day-to-day life.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, as long as we're pushing like aesthetic boundaries, I feel good. I think when it's mostly just about like, unfortunately, like I think this is one of the challenges of what we have to do is that like, there's like, it kind of goes down to like I think the two different sides of art, maybe. You know, there's like expressing emotions, there's exploring aesthetics, there's like seeking the transcendent, and then there's this other thing which is just like trying to make people have emotions, and like even if they're angry, like just trying to create outrage, or like trying to make, you know, like the outrage thing I'm like a little bit anxious about, you know, because I feel like we have enough of that in the world already. Like, and then I like I don't know, and then like, because like the outrage side of art says that we should be willing to make like we should be willing to make gore so bad it makes people throw up because it's making people feel things and waking them from their like numb slumber of their lives. That's what some art philosophers say. That kind of pisses me off. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel good. Like, you know, like, I don't know, like that doesn't, I don't like, I just make like, I get it. Like, I totally get it. It just doesn't, like, it feels like that we can push the boundaries towards like towards the sort of this transcendent and beautiful and wondrous, and like, or we can push it towards like this sort of that like outrage and negative emotions and the destruction of like of a sense of reality, you know. And I think that like when we do it right, people make pictures on here and they're like, man, the world could be so much better, and this is like helping me figure out what the world could be. Whereas I think there's another element of this, which is like saying like nothing is real, like you can't tell if it's a real picture of Tom Hanks or not, like apples aren't real, like, and that it kind of feels like it's, I think, almost like this dehumanizing thing, you know?
More nihilistic.
Nihilistic, yeah. And I definitely, it's so weird that the same tool can be used for everything, you know? Like it really is, and that's kind of maybe the reason why we have to try to like be willing to have a philosophy and aesthetic and stick to it, you know?
Right.
I guess not, people are not going to be happy about that always, but I don't know. Like, I think that eventually there'll be more than one, there'll be a lot of companies in the space, and somebody else can be deepfake.com and somebody else can be, you know, fakeboobs.com, and we'll let somebody else do all that, you know? And I think that would be great. Somebody else can do somebody else can do the best of each of the things, you know? And yeah, yeah. I definitely want to. We definitely want to like definitely try to have a positive and safe community though. Don't really want any of that. So it's been a bit honestly, it's been a bit frustrating the last month or two. We've had a lot of people come in and you know be like, why can't I do like hanging midgets from a noose? I'm an artist, and like they call like the moderators pigs, and like cops and pigs and stuff like that. And
Wow.
like yeah, and it's like that's not cool. Like yeah, we have to deal with. So sometimes the moderators, you might see them like a little bit frustrated and like I apologize in advance if a moderator ever snaps at anybody, but like sometimes they're literally coming away from like that kind of experience, you know, and like it's hard. They're volunteering and they don't need that shit, you know. It's but like they're doing a great job defending it, you know, and all the and like the community has been really great on the whole. We just have millions of people coming through right now, and it can be we're kind of having to deal with all of it, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Uh,
Sorry, a lot of things to talk about there, but I do feel better about I do feel better at the photorealistic thing as long as it doesn't feel uncanny or deepfakey, which I think we did. Like the current system has a lot of problems, but I think it has like I think we've shown that you can strike a good balance between like realism and art, like and it's possible to do realism and artfulness, you know, at the same time.
yeah, and that I mean that's one of my favorite things about MidJourney in general is you get a lot of happy accidents because of that, because you sort of when you think you know what you want and you think you want a certain result and it gives you something that's weird or distorted or strange or it's not quite, you know, hitting the kind of your sort of like vanilla conception of like what you want your art to be, and then you see something that you know you wouldn't have conceived of before and you're like, okay, that looks really weird but it looks awesome. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, just to like just as a third quicker question to wrap up, I know that you said earlier that you don't want to like overwhelm the team with, you know, going too hard on implementing like a wider variety of features too fast rather than like focusing on what you have presently. But just out of curiosity, a couple office hours ago, you mentioned that the AIs that you're working with in general are like highly sophisticated at color, and that an earlier version of MidJourney had pretty fine grained like control over color palettes. And you mentioned that you wanted to bring that back at some point. I'm wondering if you have a sense of like I guess just like a loose sense of how that factors into the like kind of medium term development plan as far as being able to get very specific and granular about color palettes.
We so we had a bunch of really weird features really early in the beta that were really cool, and like there's an argument that those are not necessarily as high priority, but there's also another argument that like we already have the code for it, you know, and they're
Right.
really cool, and like it like pushes out the sort of the ideas of like what the technology can do. And so we have like one person right now, and one of the things on their list is to like bring all the old things back in so that we can start like building them out again. And so we will have a bunch of older cool features coming back. They'll seem like new features to everybody because almost nobody has seen them before, but they were like part of our earlier experiments where we were trying a lot of cool things like that, but basically people weren't ready. You know, like they're like, bro, I'm still like wrapping my head around the fact that I can make an octopus, you know? Like I'm
Right.
not ready for like color palette control. And I think like now we're getting to the point where people are ready for some of these more advanced controls that no other platform has done. We want to be the first platform to do that. And that's exciting to us, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's
we're gonna bring a bunch of advanced features back soon that are gonna be very different from the advanced features of other people are working on. But I think that's the point, you know, is that like, yeah, in painting is cool, but like I'm not actually convinced that in painting is like a good artistic process if it takes 30 seconds every time you try to like click it. You know? And I want to explore things that feel like they open up like entirely new creative areas. So like one of my favorite things with colors is like the ability to specify like really strange palettes, you know, It's like I want to like it's like I want like an ice planet, but I want it to have like I want it to be like with these red hues, like red hues, but I want it to be like Nintendo retro style, and like kind of combining some really unusual and beautiful things. Like you just get these incredible stuff, and like yeah, color in general is this hugely important thing. I don't know. Yeah, I think that we're gonna do some weird stuff. And I'm actually much more excited about like experimenting in that area than because it kind of pushes frontiers again, you know.
Yeah.
And I think one of the challenges of the space right now is that like it's kind of taking us beyond like the current era of technology and try to understand like, okay, what does it really mean to like have all of these next generation controls and have like mixed mediums and like kind of yeah. So I'm trying to figure. I don't know exactly what. Can't say which features will come when. Some of them may even seem niche, but like the goal will be of like each of the features is to like open up an entirely new area that's never of like user expression that's never been done before on other platforms. You know.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you. I just wanted to, before I go, say thank you to you and the whole team and all the mods. It's probably an insane amount of work all the time, and it's not going unappreciated. And MidJourney has been enormously therapeutic for me in a lot of different ways. I was never a visual artist before now. I don't know if I still like consider myself one technically, but it's just no words. Yeah, it's just amazing. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being a part of the community, and thank you for the questions.
Hi,
Hello.
it's me. I am here to ask you your weekly non-voice voice chat questions.
Okay.
All right. First one's up. Is the most important one of the day, which is, have you eaten lunch yet today, David?
I had a Soylent. They're these like little milkshake drinks that are for tech people. It's terrible, but it's like eating a meal it's like eating a meal and a drink.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we would consider that lunch, but it's something.
It's basically my backup lunch. So it's like it makes sure that I'm not going to get drowsy. You know, like make sure that I have some calories. It's basically yeah. I also had I had some Fig Newtons. Those were nice.
Great. Well, this was the most important question, so just kidding. I have more questions. All right, let me scroll down. Oh, the first real question I have for you is, a lot of people are wondering about the micropole that you had with the Photoshop. People are wondering, what would a Photoshop plugin even look like? What would that be?
I'm not gonna say.
Oh, okay. That's secret. Top secret information.
Secret features. It's probably not what people think it would be. It's probably like a weird thing. We were just kind of trying to get a sense of like sentiment. Like it's okay. We'll ask like every time we ask a vague question, people are like, "How dare you ask a vague question?" Like we know we're asking a vague question. It's still interesting to see if 50% say yes or 10% say yes. You know, it gives you some sense of like, is it 1 in 10 or 1 in 2? And so yeah, at some point we're gonna offer a way for people to build in integrations like Photoshop plugins without us.
Ooh.
And we're thinking we want to be like, there's going to be a lot of integrations at some point, and we don't want to have to be able to do all of those. And like Photoshop is an example of one integration that could happen with or without us. And we were just kind of talking to some people about it and trying to get a sense of like, does anyone even want that, you know? So you're going to see some like weird things on the polls, and they're not necessarily about plans, but they're like things that we're like whenever we put up a poll, we're having a conversation about it. Like, hey, you know, someone can make a Photoshop thing. Would anyone even want that? Does anybody use Photoshop? Usually if we're already doing it, we don't put a poll up on it. Like if we're already doing it, we know that it's a good idea, we've committed to it, we're not doing a poll. The polls are for things that we haven't decided about what to do, or things we just don't know.
So my question is if you're gonna make it at some point, possibly down the road, for anybody to make their own Photoshop plugin, does that also mean people could make plugins for other stuff too, like After Effects or even like non-Adobe Cloud stuff, or just Photoshop?
Yeah. No, anything. It'd be like kind of a generic thing. But we're kind of thinking about, we're I don't know what the timeline is, but it's like at some point there's going to be integrations that make sense, and at some point we should like let other people do that. And I don't know, it's like something we're thinking about, but it's not something that we know an exact timeline on because
Fair enough.
like I think like in general we're usually trying to think of like how do we make like the best stuff in the world, and at some point it's like, oh my god, well this thing would be so good in Photoshop, somebody could make like the best Photoshop plugin in the world for this. Okay, how do we let them do that? Whereas like right now, if we just like made an API, I don't think necessarily people would make stuff that would be the best. Like it wouldn't necessarily be as immediate of an impact, but we're working on a lot of features right now that would be like more interesting in Photoshop than even the current stuff. And we're working on a lot of new features that are like increasingly interesting in these professional workflows. And then we're imagining different integrations and imagining who can do it and imagining how to let other people do it. And it's like it's a back conversation happening. Like it's not an active development thing. It's more of like we're in the planning stage.
Right,
And
like brainstorming.
And so the micro polls are usually like we're in a planning stage and we're trying to figure out what to do, and then we ask, and then that has an effect on us. But there's like for example, I'm not doing a poll right now on like what resolution people want because people already answered that poll, and we're working on higher resolution stuff now based off of that. You know?
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's ooh, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. I'm just gonna go to the next question then.
Yeah.
So one person was asking, talking about GPUs. Now we have a lot of questions about if people can take MidJourney eventually and bring it onto their own GPUs. But this person was asking, have you considered owning your own equipment, aka your own GPUs, so you don't have to rent them?
Has MidJourney thought about getting their own GPUs?
Yeah.
No, we're using too many GPUs right now. Like we're probably like MidJourney is probably running on $100 million of GPUs right now.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Maybe more. I haven't done the math lately. It's like, yeah, it's a lot. And the nice thing is that we couldn't afford to buy $100 million of GPUs, but we can afford to rent them. So we're renting.
And you don't think that MidJourney would be able to go on somebody else's like regular computer GPU anytime soon?
The current, it really depends on like it wouldn't like for example, our upscaler requires 37 gigabytes of VRAM, and there's like no consumer graphics card that can run our upsampler right now. There are consumer graphics cards that can run our lower resolution images, but they go slower.
Mm-hmm.
And you only make one picture at a time, and it's not really that fun. Like it's really nice to be able to make like, I don't know about like where you make a bunch of images at once, you know, in MidJourney at the same time and they all go. Like you could never do that locally. You could probably leave it running overnight and get like 200 pictures. But I mean, you're just using relax mode and queuing up some pictures, you'll get something, you know, similar.
Mm-hmm.
In general, I don't think it makes sense for us to optimize for people who have $3,000 GPUs. I think it makes sense for us to optimize for regular people that just kind of have regular computers and try to give them the best experience they can at really cheap, you know?
Yeah, I've noticed MidJourney really cares about making their tools accessible to as many people as possible, which I think is awesome. Because there have been people that have like messaged me and been like, I will pay $3,000 a month for like, I don't know, something ridiculous. And I'm like, that's great. But I don't know if that's really like something, I don't know, worth it for the devs as much as just, getting everybody in.
Yeah, I think we're definitely looking more at like being a Model T or like being like the Model T or the iPhone of the systems. Like where it's like anybody like iPhones are like I'm not really an Apple person, so like I'm not like there are a lot of people in tech who worship Apple. I don't, but like there's a certain interesting thing about like iPhones, just that like it doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are. Like an iPhone is still a great phone, and you can usually get one. You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily think I want to make like I don't want to make like the cheapest phone, like I don't want to make like the bargain bin phone, and I
Right.
don't really want to make a phone that no one can afford. But I like the idea of having something that anybody can afford that's as good as it possibly can be, you know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And so I think at some point we might try to make like burner MJs. Yeah, maybe at some point we do that. We like I am at some point it might make sense to have like a cheaper version. But the challenge right now is that like you do have a cheaper version. It's like the quality 0.2. It's like 4 times cheaper, but nobody uses it. So like whenever we make a cheaper version, no one uses it. It's like a sign to us that it's like not time to make a plan that only does that,
Right.
I think sometime at some point there'll be like a cheaper and good enough version that it'll make sense to have like a plan just for that.
Right, like once it gets optimized enough to like be good. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, sometime probably within the next 6 months there'll be like within the next 6 months there'll definitely be a version that's like, it'll have more limited algorithms, but it'll still be good, but it'll be like much cheaper, And then there's going to be another version that's going to be like way more expensive, but like really ridiculous. So like, but yeah, the goal is to have like this sort of general, like, we're more focused on the sort of the flagship affordable version,
100%.
Yeah. $30 is this kind of weird area, right? Where it's like, it's a lot more expensive than Netflix, but it's cheaper than Starbucks.
It's also a lot cheaper than like in the actual art industry, like a lot cheaper than like a lot of stuff. Like even just like a subscription to like Getty or like a monthly subscription to Envato Elements is like $33. So
Yeah.
like I like for an average person I get it, but for like a person who's like working in the industry it seems normal.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely $30 is cheap enough that like if you care about it, you can afford it. It's definitely
Yeah.
not cheap yet where like if you don't care, like you don't notice, So, but maybe another
100%.
version one time for that, but that won't be yeah. It's interesting.
Well, I don't have anything to add to that, so I will just go to the next question. Um, so a lot of people are actually asking about when will it be possible, or will it ever be possible to use image prompts for test and test P? And along with that, they're also asking if it would be possible to use I guess the regular, or I guess what people call the detailed upscaler, or like the V3 upscaler on test and test P images. Because for context, right now, if you were to use test P, it says up beta at the end, which is a different type of upscaler for those who don't know.
It's possible. I don't know if we've decided. Like we're really trying to make the newer stuff, and so there's a bit of a tension between like making the new stuff and adding all the edge case features to the old stuff. I think we're a little bit conflicted right now. If we have some spare time, we might do it, but otherwise, we're very much trying to make like the newer versions. The image prompts, like the current version can't do image prompts, but the next version can, and so.
Ooh.
One reason to push towards the image prompts is one reason to push towards the new stuff is that the new version is working with image prompts. It looks really beautiful. It's not ready yet. So we're definitely trying to. Image prompts are really important to us. I think image prompts are really, really important, and we will whatever replaces test P will 100% chance have image prompts. Will they release image prompts for test P? I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like right now people are just like super into this test and test piece stuff, but like you guys are like already on the next thing.
We're
So
trying to
that's
fix, but basically the problem is like very like it's hard. It's really hard. It's a really hard to fix. Like it's kind of a broken system. The reason why things don't work is because it's kind of a broken system, and it's really hard to fix the system without almost entirely replacing it. And
right.
basically, like, and so when we it's like we're always like it's almost we're kind of close in several areas to having like replacement versions that just fix a lot of the issues, and so it's definitely it's easier to just replace it than it is to actually fix it.
And probably more fun.
Fix it. Yeah, it's really frustrating. This is where I started off with. We're in this sort of difficult in between area where it's like it's tempting to try to fix the current stuff, but it also like we know that like you will never be able to fix it into something way better, you know.
Mhm.
So it's definitely we're we're gonna really try our best. We're trying our best.
I think it's cool.
Not worried about like in a month everything being fixed. Like in a month everything will be fixed.
Yeah,
Like,
but
it's just the next week or two. I don't know what we're gonna have.
I think it's still helpful to hear that though. Sorry, I can never tell when you're done talking. Like I think
Okay.
it's still helpful for people to know like, oh, like all these new exciting things like are coming and that you are working on them. So that's really fun.
Yeah, well, I think it was one reason why we didn't make it like V4 is because we kind of knew it was broken and we knew that we probably couldn't pull it over the line. But we also knew it was fun, right? And
Mhm.
so like and so what we've kind of done is we've released something that's like fun and kind of broken, fun, and you can use it for cool stuff, but it like we probably can't fix it without really totally changing it. And so, and it might not even be just a totally different, it might not be a changed version. It might just be literally a totally different version. Like no code. There might actually be like no code shared between this and the next version. So it's,
Right.
there's like basically like 3 competing things internally right now.
Ooh.
And so, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. No one knows. No one on the team knows. We're just kind of trying to push on all cylinders and,
It's a
hopefully we
mystery.
have multiple versions. It creates like a lot of safety that like no matter what, we'll have a new version over the line.
Okay, well, I have one last question for you before I hop off. Which is like, what kinds of prompts do you find the most exciting right now, personally?
That's an interesting question.
I have to think about that.
Do I
Well,
find really interesting?
yeah,
I guess lately I've been playing with making V3 images that are like a little too like vague and vibey to be like good images on their own, and then I'm enjoying the remastering a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to kind of make things that are like a little too vague and vibey, and then trying to like make them a little bit coherent where it like kind of ends in like a perfect sweet space, you know?
When you make them kind of vague, are you just like putting in random unrelated words or something?
I'll do something like a sense of imagination, like something vague,
Oh,
like come out really abstract, and then I'll try to like push it over a little bit into realistic.
interesting.
That's what I've been playing with lately, and kind of just playing with the different like different yeah, I've been playing between that barrier, and I want to make it a little easier to do the remasters and maybe even do the demasters. That if I was going to do one more like short-term random feature, I'd probably do that because it'd probably be fun, you know?
Demaster?
It'd be nice to do the remasters without having to upscale, and then it'd be fun to be able to like move a test image back into V3.
Oh yeah, that would be really fun. I think.
So like I kind of want to do that, but we don't have anyone to work on it right now. But like that's kind of like the thing that I kind of want to play with a little more myself. So we might do it at some point. Yeah, we'll see.
All right, well, that's all I have for you. I might or might not be back to ask you more depending on our time. So, maybe later. Bye.
Thank you.
Hey there. Since there's an ocean of people who constantly want to know what the newest technology is for you guys, to know what's coming up, I want to be on the train of new stuff. I just want to say there's those who are more satisfied with your longer term project goals. I'm personally excited to see where your team takes this and not necessarily where the loudest parts of the community want it to go. So I know you mentioned you didn't want to reveal much, but if you're comfortable with anything, what's one direction some of your team's been excited to pioneer, and maybe in spite of the community's interest in a different topic?
We're really working on I think we're excited about these sort of super vibey, super aesthetic models. To be honest, most of the aesthetics and the vibes were kind of by mistake. We didn't fully know what we were doing when we did it. And now as we're starting to understand what makes something beautiful and what makes something vibey, trying to turn that to the max and get the most vibey, beautiful system ever built, specifically built for that purpose, is exciting. We're also excited at the idea of building a version that tunes itself, learns from the community and tunes itself, and kind of just let that go and see what happens. No one knows, but it'd be really cool. We're excited a lot about the newer models and the bigger batches together, because we've had a hard time actually getting the variety we like out of V3. But we do get a lot of really nice variety out of the bigger models when we push them to. And so basically getting a very vibey, very creative model that also does big grids. You get these really, you can get it to be much more creative. There seems to be, there's a trade-off between creativity and consistency. And so if you only get one image, it's important to be consistent. But if you get 64 images, it's totally fine to make 50% of them duds. And then you get these really creative stuff coming out of it too. And so that's been really exciting for us to see. There's also these hints of super fast systems, versions that go 10 times, 100 times faster. And thinking about that is really interesting. We know we can do something that's way higher resolution, 16K. And we haven't seen one yet, but we're we kind of want to see it, that'll be really, we know it'll be really cool. We have some there's a lot of weirder things, and just getting the first really weird stuff out will be exciting for us. To start getting when things can get a lot weirder than they are right now. By default, this stuff just wants to make photos of dogs, right? So we definitely can get it to be we can definitely we like the idea of creating new mediums and stuff that just doesn't look like anything that's ever existed before. Seeing more hints of that is really cool. Yeah, I don't know, lots of things like that. Definitely, we'll probably do some and maybe some trying to give some new demos that are hints of not what you can do today, what things might look like in 2 years. We're kind of working on some things like that. I think it'll be really inspiring for everybody to kind of get a sense that a demo that's not economical, but that shows you what will be what will be affordable in 2 years. I think will be really exciting, and I think we'll start to get people thinking a bit more about what is this really? I think there's a temptation that people always try to figure out what is this? What is going on? What does this mean? And there's a temptation to just look at whatever we're doing today and just assume that that's it. And it kind of creates this bogus narrative basically. And then the first time we actually show people a hint of no, this is a little bit of what it'll look like in 2 years. I think it'll be really inspiring, and it'll create this narrative of things really are things are going to change a lot more than we think, and that'll be really cool. Yeah. So wants a souped up V3. Yeah, we too. Yeah. The new versions we're hoping will be I think that we're definitely looking to stuff that's more vibey and artistic than realistic, but we're hoping that we can get something that makes realistic vibey stuff, and that makes yeah. We're still going for the supermodel, and we're optimistic about that. All right, I was shouldn't have been reading the other comments. Got caught by something.
Well, yeah, thank you very much I'm excited for everything that goes on. I'm sorry for deafening everyone. Have a good one.
Sorry for what? No, you're good. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I didn't have a specific question. I've just been in a lot of conversations about how AI art is going to impact like the fine art industries and the illustration and graphic design industries. And I work as an illustrator. I make casino slot themes, and I have found MidJourney like so incredibly useful both in my personal projects and my professional projects. So it's just been weird, like in my communities, like seeing people who haven't really tried making art with AI yet, who are artists, and they're like feeling threatened by it. Or, you know, have a lot of opinions about whether it's fair the way that people create art so quickly with it and what impact it's going to have on artists. And so I've kind of unexpectedly found myself a lot defending AI art as something that's legit. And so I kind of spammed your form with a bunch of arguments in defense of MidJourney, and then they added me to the queue.
Thank you. Well, thank you for defending us. I think it's really important for us to. I think they're going to be paths of this technology that I think go more towards artists, and there's going to be paths of technology that go more towards like artists who have like physical skills. I would say and then there'll be that go towards people who have like who have zero physical skills. How to kind of describe it's an interesting dividing line, right? Like, it's like drawing is hard, right? But we actually do want to invest in versions of our tools that are like more specifically made for artists, even though the current stuff already is great for artists. Like, I think there's another step that we can take there that I want to take.
I think calling it a tool, because a lot of these people, they kind of have an opinion about it without being in a discussion about it first. And if you understand that it is a tool, then you understand that you're not replacing artists like you were saying earlier. But like one thing that I've seen that I've been surprised about is how concerned people are about AI in general. I like to donate to charities, and one of the charities that I was like picking projects from recently actually had an entire like section of it that was specifically about like averting AI like related disasters or like apocalypse in the future. So I've actually found myself really concerned because I've been using kind of backpedal a little bit here. I've had some big projects I've wanted to do my entire life, and I've always been looking for a team to help me do it. And MidJourney has made it so that those projects are a scope that I can manage by myself now. Like, I'll be able to do these things in my life because of MidJourney. And so I've been having these like nightmares that like the collective decides that it's too dangerous for some reason and like takes it away. I can't be the only person that's concerned about that.
I don't think it's going away. I think that's the good thing. I think what it ends up becoming is not yet decided yet,
Yeah.
I think that like yeah, like that, like it's one reason why I feel it's important for us to be a part of the space. Like a lot of the Dolly images look like stock photos, and clip art. And I thought it was really important to have something that wasn't that.
Yeah.
So, and nobody else get it. They're like, David, but isn't that like the best industry? Don't you want to like replace stock photos? And like, I don't want to do that. Like, that sounds terrible. I don't even like stock photos. Like, I don't like using stock photos, Like,
yeah.
Like, and like, there's like, I think that like, there's still an evolving conversation of like, what is this stuff and what can it be,
Yes.
And I think that there's a lot of like So I don't think it's going away. It could become boring and shitty. Like that's the risk. Kind of like VR, you know?
That does remind me of something that I wanted to mention based on something you were talking about earlier about letting the community starting to drive the aesthetic a little bit, because I remember there used to be, I think it still exists, there's a t-shirt company called Threadless, and I used to do art for Threadless, and the community decided that it liked a certain aesthetic, and it just like overrode anything that came in that wasn't this specific aesthetic. So I was immediately concerned that that's something that could happen.
I'm also concerned about that. Like, a great example is like, I don't want to make the website just pictures of pretty women, you know?
Mhm.
Like, there's nothing wrong about like that sometimes, but like that would be weird, right? It almost like you know, like there's more to artistic expression than that, you know?
Yeah.
And trying to figure out ways to balance that is a big challenge that we're working on. That's really important to us. Is to make sure that it's like making sure that it's balanced, right? Like that
Mhm.
we want to focus on like balanced exploration. I mean, it's okay if everybody goes nuts on like cyberpunk bumblebees or something for a day, but like it would definitely be cheating it if it like only became that, you know? So
Mhm.
yeah, we are really similarly worried and focused on making sure that doesn't happen. We
Speaking
actually
of,
have a version of the system eventually that is like cheaper or free. Just like gives people like really weird stuff all the time. And like and then basically by picking which really weird one you like, it actually is like helping it discover something totally new, you know?
yeah, I
You
would love
basically
to use that, especially
yeah.
if you can search in if you can use prompts in different languages. A lot of the stuff I'm most interested in, there are things that are not translated to English very often yet. So I have to like do like an image search, figure out what this thing is called in its own language, and then try to figure out if anybody has turned that into an English word, if there's like a consistent English word for it. Um, so that would be a question I would have, is like if you guys are trying to incorporate like non-English content like as much as possible, and the ability for the bot to look for things in other languages.
You do want to add non-English content. Don't know what that will do, but it is a thing that we're looking at. It's an area that like, I'm not very good at other languages, so I literally don't know. You know, but yeah, but I think anything that can push aesthetic exploration, and then trying to figure out ways to actually like get the platform to encourage that to the greatest extent possible. Like I would say is one of the most interesting elements of the community. You know,
Hmm.
like it's kind of the ability. It's like the degree of aesthetic exploration that can happen here is like unprecedented in terms of speed and breadth people, and that's just like super exciting to me, you know,
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
I don't even know why. It seems important.
Yeah, I see a lot of the same stuff come up a lot in the like collective feed, which I think is normal because people see each other's stuff and then it's like on your mind, and you want to see what you can make with that thing that's really cool that somebody else made. But if there was like some randomness just kind of foisted upon the community periodically, I think that's what you guys are doing with the prompts a little bit. I think that's really important.
I
The
agree.
the daily prompts.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to figure out ways to do that even better over time. It's definitely like I can't figure out if we're at a good balance right now or how much we need to mix it up. Like it's still new for a lot of people, but like I don't think we don't see like the same themes for weeks happening ever. You know what I mean? Which is good.
Mhm.
We definitely see like fads that last a day or a week sometimes. Be okay, right? Like, how do you feel about it right now?
I can definitely tell when I look at something like if MidJourney made it and about when, which means to me that like it's a little bit limited, but I'm sure that that's something that is gonna evolve as you guys work on it, like no matter what, probably without even trying to, you're gonna add more stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess you can still put like it's even if we have like we have there's very much like a default look if you just say like dog.
Yeah,
If you say like a black and white pencil drawing, you know, in the style of like a Japanese manga person of a dog with something like you can make it do really weird, kind of arbitrarily weird stuff right now, you know?
right.
I guess I'm trying to figure out how to, you know, encourage that more. Not necessarily really long prompts, but just pushing those boundaries. I guess we've been meaning to do an educational thing for a while that just kind of helps show people different styles almost, or something that maybe helps them like convert images back into words. Maybe like I want something like this, and then they kind of learn new words.
Yeah, I've wanted that actually, almost like a Wikipedia, a visual like Wikipedia, because like for me, I've found myself using the same art style. I got to visit Italy last year, and so there are a few artists that stuck out to me, and I know that there are so many more, and it would take a lot of research on my part to go through and identify who they are. So if we even had like a wiki of just here's a few examples from this artist, there's the artist names, I would love to have that. I've wished for that.
Yeah, I should had a feature like that for a little bit. We just haven't been able to keep it up to date with all the algorithms. We
Right.
should have more. Yeah, thank you for reminding me on that. It's an area that I really want to invest in.
I'm sure that you'd get a lot of community help doing that.
Well, I mean, the thing is that like we want to just make a picture of every single word. We could just do that. We don't actually need anybody for that. Like we can just run. We can script that. You know.
Well, you can make you can lower this like make it less of a scope if you just use artists that are public domain. Like here's a bunch of public domain artists that you can like pick styles from, would probably alleviate some people's concerns about like copyright, like how much of an image reference is coming from a specific artist somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure if there's a good way to get lists of public domain artists. Like anybody who's been dead for more than 100 years.
Yeah. Okay, well,
Because like some things are really, I guess maybe I forget. Yeah, I guess there is because like sometimes they keep copyright for a really long time, right? Maybe it's like there's some date. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, some places like you can guess, like if it's Disney, they're going to own it for more than the 70 years they're supposed to. But you can, you know, have like Renaissance artists is probably what most people would look at, or people that are like early 1900s or something, would probably help. Or even if it's not a specific style, but it's not necessarily somebody would know very well, like the difference between like Art Deco and Art Nouveau, um, and having just a short like wiki entry for that so that people can learn to try them all out.
Yeah, I need to figure this stuff out still. We really want to make a better way of helping the people explore, and I haven't figured out what it is yet, but it's like, yeah.
Well, you've just like basically created like a ton of artists. Um and even as somebody who's like gone through art history and been trained as an artist and worked as an artist for a long time, all of a sudden I realize how much art training I don't have, because they're like words that I need to talk to the bot and I don't have them, but I know that they exist. So you have kind of a unique problem there of like having created a whole new set of brand new artists that are trying to speak a language that hasn't existed before.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, it's probably one of those areas that we should invest in sooner. It's like I keep forgetting that we did a survey, and like one of the number one things everybody wants, just like better ways to like learn words and learn. It's like above a lot of the other image making features. You know, people are like, oh, I like making images already. Just like help me learn new words and discover and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it get like sucked down the rabbit hole of like understanding the essence of beauty or like figuring out some algorithm version 39, but like just like helping people learn even just the existing space of language and words is actually really important. And yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for
it does make you wonder if there's like an intrinsic like on some kind of weird universal level intrinsic meaning to things. Somebody just posted a really good example in the text of artist keyword art styles known to work with text image. Anywho, I actually didn't expect them to put me on with you because I just kind of just poured all of these arguments into there. But I'm glad that I did get to chat with you for a minute. But I will vacate the stage. Somebody else can come ask a question.
Thank you for coming up, and thank you for the questions and reminders about some of the things that we should be doing. It was good thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for all you do.
Of course.
Hello.
Hello.
So I have a lot of I want to ask like more than 8 questions, but there is one in particular that's killing me with curiosity. So I saw a news about a guy who won a digital art contest at the California.
It's
Oops,
Colorado.
wrong button. Yeah, Colorado State Fair in the United States with an image generated using MidJourney. So he edited the image by hand, of course, but I want to know what you guys think of this.
I don't think we really thought a lot about it, to be honest. It's like cool. Yeah, I mean, like we can. The system makes like we just try to make it make really beautiful pictures all the time, and people make really wonderful pictures on top of that, and then like people use it and they're happy. And I guess somebody put it in a contest and they did good, and I guess it's not really. Don't really think about it a lot, to be honest. I think, yeah, we're not really doing this to like win contests or to like cause controversy or anything. We just like
Yeah, I know.
so we
I
don't
saw this
actually
too.
I think it was on the front page of the New York Times today. I heard, which is cool. And like we mentioned it in our own chat rooms, like, hey everyone, we're on the front page of the New York Times today. But like we didn't really talk about it. We're like, oh, that's cool, and then we just kind of moved on.
Yeah, I saw that here in Brazil on a website called Olhar Digital. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think it's
It's
really, really
kinda,
cool that the AI can generate an image that can win a contest.
oh yeah, but I mean, even already, the images that are on the gallery. If I look at the website, it's like really beautiful pictures people are making. And like
Yes.
it's really, really, really. I feel like the world hasn't caught up yet to how beautiful the pictures can be.
Yeah.
One that won in the contest that looked like a V3, V2. I mean, it might have been a V2 even. It looked like a pretty older picture, and like it was great. But it was like definitely there's a lot of beautiful stuff happening on here, and people don't really realize it yet.
Yeah, I saw it on the community feeds. There's a lot of beautiful images there.
Yeah. I don't think people really know it yet. I think it's like we haven't really. Maybe there's an area we need to do better, but we haven't I don't think people really understand how nice the pictures already are.
Yeah, so that's it. And thanks for answering my questions. And
Of
that's
course,
it.
it's a fun story. I wasn't like some things I expected, some things I didn't. I didn't expect this Colorado story to be big, or yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
So
Yeah, just a quick comment on the previous story first.
Mhm.
The style guide, like one of the style guides that's being shared around in 2 questions ago, is made by the person who won the contest. So I feel like that shows that clearly there is some skill being put into this.
Oh yeah, I would people put a lot of time and skill and effort into the pictures. I'm definitely not a person that says like there's no skill involved or anything. Yeah, like I see people's I can see the numbers. Like I see people spending 100 hours trying to figure out how to make something, like make crazy things. Yeah, I totally agree that there's a lot of skill.
Yeah, but now on to my actual question. So I think most of what I want to ask already got asked by other people. So I can just skip to. So with Stable Diffusion, someone made an image to image prompt that's named Diffuse the Rest, which basically lets you draw a very rudimentary drawing and then have it be used as an image prompt, but not really taking inspiration from it, literally just taking where are the colors, what pose do the characters have, and let you I guess let you kind of generate based on a very, very simple drawing. While if you used, for example, an image prompt in MidJourney, it would also try to take some of the style from the drawing and how it looks from the drawing. So I was wondering, would you be up to like trying to make something like that in MidJourney, or would that be something MidJourney might get?
We've experimented a lot with things like that in the past. Our concern right now is that like we do want to make something that's like good for people who can draw or good for artists, and so we like that. But the thing that we don't like about a lot of those things right now is that we think that the images that come out of those systems just look worse in general. And so it's like if somebody just spent like time using words with our system, like for a little longer, it would just look a lot better. So we want to be careful that like when we add controllability, that we're not actually like just helping people make images that look worse, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think the challenge is like, how do we add controllability in a way that makes things look better, not worse, you know? And we have some
Yeah.
ideas. We're working on ideas for it. We haven't yet figured out something yet that we're totally happy with.
Have you seen Diffuse the Rest before?
Not sure which specific. I can't quite hear.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of the image to image stuff. I mean, it's using this like init image concept that's been around for like 8 or 9 months. We've played with it. A lot of people played with it. There's nothing really. It's kind of similar to how it's an old concept.
Yeah.
The issue is just that like it doesn't it's hard to make it look as good that way. It kind of
Since what's very interesting about this one specifically is that you have a lot more control about where something in the scene appears, which I haven't really seen with any of the other image to image ones.
It's true. I'm mixed about. I think I like the idea of people being able to set composition. If I want to do composition controls, I would rather just say you can give it an image and say I want the composition of this image, you know, and then it goes from that. Because I think that usually like the drawing interfaces on computers is like not good. Like drawing with your mouse is bad. So I think it would be a better user experience for people to be able to say, I want the composition of this picture, but then I want these words, or I want the colors of this picture, the composition of this picture, I want the character in this picture, and then I want them in a desert or something, you know?
Yeah.
I think that would be we're looking at the idea of like anchors, like you're anchoring things, you know? Like I want to use this image to anchor as an anchor for composition. I want this image as an anchor for color. And I feel really good about that. We're working on that. That's kind of the direction we're going in.
Oh yeah. That's really cool. That's basically what I want to ask for, like anything like that.
Yeah, we're going to be in this weird area where like there's going to be a lot of cool things on the internet, and then we're usually going to not not do them because like we have like strong opinions on what we think is like what the best possible thing would be. And if somebody else makes the best possible thing, yeah, then we'll do it. But usually people are just making something quick, and we want to make like the really crazy thing that like requires like 10 full-time people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and I guess it's also possible to use a different AI and then try to kind of incorporate it with image weights into MidJourney.
That's true. Like people use Dolly for the brush tools with our stuff sometimes, which is cool. I'm totally happy with that, by the way. If anybody ever wants to like use our tools with another tool, like that's fine. You know, I don't really care. I'm not trying to be like take over the world or like the only thing on your you will have a computer and the only application will be MidJourney. Wahaha. You know, that's not me. I don't care. I just yeah. If somebody else can do it, actually, I'd rather somebody else do it. Like that's great. You know, I just want there to be good, like as much cool stuff in the world as we can. But I do have really strong opinions on user interfaces because like that was my main thing for like 10 years with like my previous company, which was like Leap Motion. We did all these like little hand tracking and gesture and spatial interfaces. And I feel really strongly right now that the user interface for these technologies could be a lot better. And if anything, one of my biggest regrets is that like it's very non-physical right now. And for people who enjoy like the physical act of creation, all of these tools are kind of poor, you know? And I would love to think about how do we create these sort of like, how do we make it feel like you're cooking, you know, you're like a witch with a cauldron, or you're like cooking a nice dish, or you're in like a workshop and you're crafting something, trying to make it feel really good. Because like if like a large amount of the stuff in the future is going to get made with these kinds of tools, it's really important that it feels good to make stuff, you know?
Yeah, thank you for answering.
No problem.
There's a lot of people in the queue, so I'll let that be it.
Okay. Is I give really long answers sometimes, but you guys are just good questions and prompting me to talk about a lot of things. So thank you.
Hi there. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Hi. Great. I was just wondering, actually, I love that conversation where you just left off. That gave me one more thing I wanted to talk about. But going back to a conversation you had been talking about earlier, it was about visual tuning of your software. And I was wondering if that's part of the AI model or the data set, or is it a secondary process that's layered on? And the context that I'm coming at this from was I'm thinking about potential like commercial applications where a brand, for example, might want to commission or develop their own vibe, but use sort of the backbone of everything sort of creative and beautiful that you've created.
Working on that, so we do want to have a version where people can kind of tune it to themselves, you know. We are working on that. We almost did it this month, but I think we're pushing it a little bit further because of all the changes that are happening everywhere else.
I see.
I would definitely do that.
So is that? I was kind of wondering, like, is that part of the AI part, or is that something else that's like augmenting the AI? So I'm wondering, like, is it part of the data set, or is it something beyond that?
There's really 3 different things. There's like understanding language. There's understanding language's connection to images. There's understanding like what are images, and then there's like understanding beauty and ugliness and good and bad and creativity versus consistency. There's a bunch of different AI systems actually.
I see.
And we work on all of them separately at the same time.
Separately together. Got it.
They're all done separately. They're not trained together, actually. There is no way to train them all together yet. So you have to kind of break it into sub-problems and then focus on each sub-problem. So like the reason why our stuff like might not know about certain animals right now is that would just be like the language part. It literally doesn't know that word. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And like and then like maybe the image thing like has these glitches in the images because it didn't learn this type of texture. It has this artifact in it. Or then the beauty thing will like try to have a sense of light and color, and I think the people are more, when people tune it, they're more likely to tune like the beautiful part than they are to tune like what is a word. It's really hard to
True.
teach it what a word is or what an image looks like, but you can teach it kind of what types of images and you like.
Uh-huh. I see. So when you're giving people the ability to tune it, they're tuning all of these things, or more likely focusing on like one area.
Probably going to tune just the very last part, which is like what do you like and what do you not like.
Got it.
You're not going to teach it new words. It's going to be a lot longer before people are teaching it new words.
Yeah.
Like showing it new kinds of images it hasn't seen.
Uh-huh. Well, I was just thinking, like, I did a koala with my daughter, and I was like, it did not do a very good job of koalas. It probably doesn't know what koalas are, or at least hasn't seen a lot of them. Maybe it's gotten better since then. But you could conceivably have a business that does a certain thing that you need to teach it what that thing looks like. So there might be things where people want to teach it a language or a connection of a language to image.
Yeah, like for example, you could say like, it doesn't do panda, so I'm going to give it like 100 panda pictures,
Right. Yeah.
But I think we're not ready for that yet. Not really ready for that yet.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, you've got a lot on your plate. And then the other thing that this last person was talking about and you started talking about user interface and like the physicalness of it. That's like so exciting. And I was just wondering, I'm sure this is way down the line, but your thoughts about using this in a VR or an AR environment where you could use gesture control or some other kind of ways of interacting beyond just typing into a tiny little box.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to think about like what's the far future of this look like. Is an artist studio in 5 years just like a keyboard and a monitor, or is it possible to have something that actually looks like an artist studio where it's like a physical space and people are making all these beautiful things in it? I feel very strongly that I want to go towards the second. I want to have I want there to be physical artist studios still, and like I want that to feel like a humane physical process. And I don't know if it's going to be like augmented reality glasses or projectors or new kinds of objects and hardware. I'm not particularly afraid of making hardware. I've built hardware before, and so if MidJourney keeps growing and there's lots of people, like I would be totally game for like MidJourney hardware and like being able to create like an art studio out of like all these objects and physical things and new types of devices. Like I would totally be down for that.
Cool. Can't wait to play in that studio. Thank you.
I think I'm going to do some aspirational stuff. So even like before people can buy it, like I will probably help create a vision of what that looks like and show people it, to kind of get people excited. I don't know what year will be the year where people can have like a MidJourney like art studio, but we'll go one step at a time. Like I'm definitely, I feel very strongly that it needs to go in that direction because right now, like I love MidJourney, I love all this stuff, but like it is very sort of cerebral and non-physical in a way that like, I like to cook and I like to like put a little bit of this in and that in, and like it is that is in there, but you're like kind of cooking with words, but there is like a non-reality to it, which I think is not ideal from a humanistic standpoint. And so I think aspirationally, if we want to make it more humane over time, we really want to bring that back, and be thoughtful about it.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea that you could conceivably do it both ways, right? Like there's something so lovely about being able to just like sit down at night and have a quiet moment on the couch and just like be in your little tiny world, but then also to have that opportunity to just be big about it too. If you were to have a digital studio where you could create in this space, whether it's a physical giant space or a virtual giant space.
I mean, or it might even just be like something on your coffee table, like just like I think paper and pencil right now is pretty portable, but it's a much more physical experience,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think there's something to be said about like portable but physical experiences too. And I think a lot about like what does that mean in the context of these technologies? Like it's not going to literally be like anything else that's like existed, but like it's a value that I think we want more of in the future, I think about that a lot, and I think that's really important. physical creatures at the end of the day.
True. True. All right. Well, thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Hello. So I have two, so to say, original questions, and then if you have the time, I can add some thoughts on some other things that were said. My first question was relating to, have you given any thought, or are you doing anything to prevent maybe the model on feeding primarily on AI art, also from MidJourney, but also from different models, and creating a closed feedback loop of just getting more AI generated content and pushing it through the through all the cogwheels, so to say.
I thought that's a question. You mean like, are we going for diversity or are we going for quality? Or is that what you're asking? Or
Yes, like you're saying now you scrape a lot of the internet to include into the new models. Is there a way, maybe like watermarking, like DALI 2, I think they put like the 5 little colors at the bottom, so you can differentiate original in the sense of traditional original art and AI art?
maybe we might do something like that. If we do it, it'll probably be like an invisible watermark.
Yeah, like encode it into the image or somehow.
Yeah, I think we've been thinking about doing like invisible watermarks. Just haven't gotten around to it. I mean, my main goal is to make it so that you can like look at the picture and kind of tell that it's like not real. You know, I think the OpenAI did the little watermark because a lot of their pictures look like perfect photos, and it's good to have that watermark on it. You know, because we're trying to like not make it look like perfect photos. It's not as big of a problem for us, but I do see the appeal of having like a way to like look it up almost. You know.
Yeah, because right now, if you look up certain artists on Google, a lot of the art that pops up on Google is just AI art, and you can't really differentiate, is this an original piece that I haven't seen, or is this AI?
I feel like our I feel like the MidJourney images aren't on Google Image too much yet because we didn't make our website searchable. I'm not sure. Maybe it's getting worse.
It's mainly from Reddit and like other sources where people post and it gets popular, and then they rank up on Google. But I see what you mean.
I would
Another
be scared
thing.
if we like made our website public, then all of a sudden like millions and millions of images would all go onto Google, and that would be scary. Like I don't want that, you know. Like then we would
Yeah.
take over the search. I don't want that.
Yeah. So moving on to a bit more touching upon what other people said. You had a conversation about wanting diversity on the prompts that are being used, and we don't want to only see beautiful young women on the website. So you think maybe implementing something like having diversity into what you can prompt, and having a certain percentage of different prompts you have to use to be able to continue using the bot?
I can't figure out, you know, so sometimes somebody has a project, you know, and they want to do, and like maybe their project is they're doing a women's fashion show or something, right? And they need to do a lot of women clothing, and I think that's okay. I don't want to interfere with that. I don't know. I do want to be able to encourage people to do more diverse things, and I don't know the right way to do that. One of my hopes is that if we go to bigger grids eventually, and like maybe you get more images every time, and then maybe we always do like maybe you get like 9 pictures, and we give you 2 crazy ones each time. You know,
Yeah.
2 completely crazy.
It was just a random thought in my head because some people are saying like it's a horrible restriction. I don't imagine you would restrict people actually making whatever they like. It's more like having a variation in there to promote the diversity.
Yeah, like I like the idea of like some percentage of images you get are just crazy. They're like you know, it's like it's always like you get the crazy picture, you know. I like that, but I think right now when we only have 4 pictures, it's like not quite enough yet, you know, to put some crazy pictures in there. But I think if we get to 9 pictures or more, then we'll be able to start putting crazy pictures in there all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Moving on fast because I see you're gonna wrap up. I had maybe an idea. Take it as you like. For again for the chaos and having a diversity, banning like the most popular 1,000 or 2,000 words of the English dictionary, and then promoting that as a cheaper version of the model, and having people make crazy stuff.
That's a fun thought. I think what I might do eventually is like, I might do a thing where we actually measure how crazy your prompt is, and we tell you, and then maybe we'll like reward people like with free hours or free pictures for making like really weird stuff that people like. You know?
Yeah.
Like I would
And
rather instead of like punishing something, I'd rather reward what's good than punish what's bad. You know?
yeah, of course. And then a last topic I kind of want to touch on. You said something about like really ugly art or art that brings like vomit to your brain, and you become nauseous and everything. That's not something we traditionally look for in art, and we want to use MidJourney and all this to be in awe and amazed. But don't you think that in the comparison of getting butterflies in your stomach and being like really excited and feeling magical about something is comparable to feeling nauseated in a sense and feeling some dread from what you're looking at while it is still art?
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things where it's like, for example, telling somebody uh, telling somebody a joke, like giving somebody a compliment that makes them feel good, even if they didn't ask for it, is like culturally, it's sort of always okay. You know, I would say generally okay. Whereas like punching somebody or saying something mean to them that makes them feel bad is usually bad. So I think that like if people make really like offensive, sickening images and then they post them on the internet, it's like maybe a little like rapey or assault. It's like visual assault, you know? It's like I didn't ask to be shown like gross pictures of skewered children with guts put around the road. Like I didn't ask to be shown that, but now you're trying to like assault me with these, you know, not these like potentially even like traumatic images, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I'll give
that
you
was
like a
actually
small.
people were doing that. There was a problem with that. Like
Yeah.
we actually had people who were trying to make like the most like offensive shock images, you know, and I just didn't want to. I didn't want to have to take it. I didn't want to take responsibility for that, you know.
Yeah, of course. That's also the I find extreme end of the spectrum maybe. But for example, I have quite some art around my house, and one of them is a painting of two women being kind of naked, and one of them laughs at the other one while the other one tears her skin of her arm, and it's the most captivating of them all. Well, I have other art hanging around that's very beautiful and colorful and futuristic, so to say. And the most comments I get is from that particular bit disturbing piece. And I think in the same comparison, you would get, you would push for more beautiful, beautiful stuff with this model you're trying to explain. I'm really bad at explaining. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the challenge is right now when I let it do it's hard for me to say I want you to do a little bit of blood, but not something that's actually sickening. Like it doesn't have enough data yet to know where the fine line is, you know? So like that's the challenge right now is trying to give people the freedom to make things that push a little bit without giving them the freedom to make like terrible gross shock imagery, you know? Like there's like a line, right? And so I think over time I'd like to be able to make it smarter. So I want people to be able to push that line. But right now we don't have the technology yet to kind of let people get really close without also letting them go way over.
Yeah, of course. I'm trying to advocate just to push both end of the spectrum and not try to push for the beauty side, you know, and also try to push into the beauty kind of disturbing, but in a good way side.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of evidence that we can teach it the nuances. So like for example, we have things like if you ask it for like a nude person, it'll make them nude, but it might cover like the boobs and the groin with like a branch, you know, or like a vase. Like it'll do that kind of stuff now. Like over time, it's possible to like help it be like more nuanced, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's hard. There's also like when like a little porn got into the data set, all of a sudden it like started to change the definition of like what women look like in ways that were kind of bad, you know?
Yeah.
Beautiful woman should necessarily have to have huge boobs, you know, and lots of cleavage being shown. Like, you should be able to say beautiful woman and not get a picture of that, right? And like, yeah, that's so like there's you don't want there's that fine line, right? It was like you want people to be able to push the boundary, but you don't necessarily want it to like pull weird biases into it, and you don't want it to like
Yeah,
go
of course,
over
it's
challenging.
slowly pushing the where it goes. I understand that, of course. It's
Yeah,
it's computer
been really,
programming.
it's been really
Yeah.
challenging. I think we have some new ideas. We have some like we've done proof of concepts. We know we can teach it. Then I think the next thing will basically being like setting up a system that's like just trying to gather data specifically on some of these sort of topics. Like, what is this too bloody or not bloody enough? Like, it has to learn each thing, you know? Not bloody enough. I didn't mean that. Like, is it, you know what I mean? Like, where is the, like, we have to basically,
Yeah.
there's certain sensitive topics, like basically like nudity versus pornography and blood versus gore. And you basically, because those are totally different. Like, learning about one doesn't learn about the other, you know? So we almost have to like figure out what those sensitive topics are and then teach each of those topics individually. And once it does, it'll be good. It's probably not like this month. I think we'll get a lot better this month. I would say like over 6 months. I'm hoping it gets like a lot more nuanced, you know?
Yeah, seeing the progress already in the last like summer months, it's been so insane. So I'm not afraid of the future. But I'll get someone else on since you're finishing up. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I have to wrap up soon. I have to meet. I have to do a meet. Yeah, I had something in my calendar, you know, got bumped up against this, but I have time for a little bit more, 1 or 2 more things, and then I think we'll wrap up. Ancient, do you have anybody?
Yep, got 2 more. Afterburner and then Ariel.
Right.
Afterburner's on stage right now. So.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of different from the guys you've been talking to. I am brand new. Can you hear me?
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I never heard about MidJourney before 48 hours ago. And now I'm heard about AI art, so I knew it was out there, but MidJourney specifically, I had no idea about. And there's some dude was putting up videos on YouTube of some of my favorite songs where the lyrics had been used to generate AI images, and one thing led to another, and I found my way here. So I've already ponied up. I've already given you $40 of my personal income because I signed up for the $10 thing, and that wasn't enough, so I went ahead and signed up for the $30 one. But since I am a new user, I do have some observations, some thoughts about the new user experience because I'm right in the thick of it. And I kind of get the feeling from listening to some of the other people that were talking that maybe the tech is advancing faster than the documentation. But one of the things that I've struggled with is the amount of feedback that you get from the system as a new user when I'm trying to learn. I've got some ideas for pictures I want to make. The amount of feedback that you get from the system, you have to experiment, right? Because the documentation is not comprehensive, and you're basically just kind of flying blind, right? And so figuring out what to do requires experimentation. Experimentation uses up the free 25 slots that you start off with. So once I used those slots up, I paid for $10 more to get 200 slots, and I still did a lot of experimentation, trying to, discover some sort of correlation between what I was, typing in and what the engine was giving back to me. And I just feel like the feedback loop there isn't super tight. You know what I mean? It's as a new user, I'm a truck driver, dude. I'm sitting there talking to you right now in the back of a Kenworth, sitting at a truck stop in Barstow, California. So, I'm not your typical user. So the feedback there, like I said, there should be a feedback loop. I don't know how to explain it, but there needs to be like a tighter feedback loop that I, as an end user, just piddling around with, can kind of say, okay, I changed this and this is what happened. A lot of times I have no idea why I get the pictures I get, why I can't get the pictures I'm trying. I got an album of failures of attempts to draw a picture of a human hand holding a sword in a sword approved way. And as a new user, I don't know, is it because is it just my ignorance of the prompts? Do I just not know enough about the system to get it to do what I want? Or am I running up against kind of a fundamental limitation of the AI engine to generate this kind of art? And right now, I'm kind of this, with respect to the specific instance of trying to get a hand holding a sword, I feel like I'm really just kind of running up against some of the basic limitations of AI generated art, but I don't know for sure. So one of the things I would say, it's not really a question, it's more of if there's a way to tighten that up, to make that more clear to me as the end user, that would be fantastic. And again, the other thing is, I love experiment. That's why I got on this thing. I have got probably 80 grids of a portrait of Drew Brees, who is a quarterback, ex-American football quarterback, just in different styles. I was having so much fun. You guys have so many cool artists. Just seeing that portrait rendered in the styles of comic book artists and Albrecht Dürer and all of these crazy. It was amazing. I had so much fun doing that. That's how come you got so much of my money. But when you're doing that kind of experimentation, trying to get some feedback as to how it all works, you burn up those free slots real fast.
No, I definitely think we want to try to figure out better ways to help people learn. Challenging because we could render out a bunch of pictures, so you could kind of see different styles, combinations of styles and objects without having to make anything. But then we can never get everything, so it's tough. And then sometimes we don't even know what the system can do. So I think one of the goals of having the community is that people can learn together. And so there's this chat room called Prompt Craft. People talk together, how do I do this? And then they'll make, or how do I do that? And then people together actually are really good at figuring out how to do it. So that would be the number one. If I could give you one recommendation that you could do today, it would be you can go to the channels and ask people hey, does anybody know how to do this? And sometimes you'll get somebody oh yeah, I love doing sword things, and that's great. We're gonna try to actually do we're trying to add more things like that to help people talk. Then we're also on the other side, we're gonna try to render out a bunch of pictures ahead of time. So there's almost like a library, and you can just look at the library, and the library is free to look at, and it can help you kind of look at how a lot of different words might affect things without having to actually make any of those images. There's a user gallery, so you can search the user gallery and see if pictures that other people have made, and that can sometimes give you a sense. But it's a little slow right now, so I'm not actually totally happy with how it being a little slow. But it's definitely I think thank you for reminding me again about how a big part of the experience is just learning, and we could try to make pictures look a little bit more realistic or be a little better at cats. But at the end of the day, actually just making it a lot easier and smoother and more fun and cheaper just to learn is actually like a really important thing that we need to do.
Well, it's and don't get me wrong, it's fun because I've been doing exactly what you said. I have been on the gallery. One of the things I did notice, because you see these fantastic pictures, in the hot and in the top, and just really, super. And you can copy the prompt, right?
Okay.
And so I copied the prompt, thinking, well, I'm going to try to make this same picture because I figure if I can make that picture or at least something close to it, then I will learn, because that's the whole point. I got to learn. But I guess I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like the flags at the end of the prompt, like the test P, creative, up, beta, and whatever else those flags are, they don't show up in the prompt when you copy it. So you can find somebody's great picture and copy that prompt and put it in your own prompt, and you will not get that picture. And so understanding why I'm not getting the picture that they got when I'm using the same prompt they used, that's part of the learning experience. And right now it's kind of opaque to me why I'm not getting what they got.
Yeah.
When and if there's some way, it's not a complaint, because I love the system, and I've had a ball. Like I said, I've had an absolute ball. But yeah, if there would be some way to make that process less opaque.
I think you're totally right. We should make sure that copies for you in the future. So that's just the thing that we need to do. I agree with you.
And I know you're trying to get out of here, so I'll leave you with one. This was part of I just listening to other people talk, and you've mentioned a couple of times you really like the idea of kind of training the algorithm to the crowd, training the algorithm to the user. And the only thing I would say to that, because it's something I've experienced, every system I've run into that had a trainable algorithm, I have managed to train it into uselessness. Like I don't know if you're familiar with Pandora, the online music service, but they had a trainable algorithm. I was one of the early adopters for Pandora. It's kind of fallen by the wayside in the wake of the Google Play and Spotify. But that was their selling point, was they had a trainable algorithm, and I managed to train it so where it only played, a small handful of songs. It never played. I wanted to hear new music of what I was hearing, the kind of music I was like. But I trained that algorithm I tuned it so well, not on purpose, right? I just by saying, hey, I like this, I don't like that. Next thing I know, it's providing me a very narrow slice of the music I want to listen to. And I've managed to do the same thing with YouTube. So, by just, not trying to do anything other than I like this and I don't like that, I have narrowed my YouTube recommendations to a very narrow slice of what it could, so, I'm sure there's a solution to that problem, and I'm sure that you guys are professionals. You do this for a living. I drive a truck. But I just wanted to mention that that was something that occurred to me when I heard that talk.
Absolutely. I think it's a great point. I think we've seen it happen already sometimes, and it's a big worry. Like, I think it's almost like you almost want to make it better at not doing the bad things, but you don't want it to only do one good thing, and we're definitely thinking of having it always try to give you some crazy and new things to try to help kind of get you out of a rut if you're in one, and then also to try to get people who are specifically exploring only weird things all the time, so that way it's constantly learning, it's constantly discovering new and crazy stuff that can then spread to the rest of the community. I think that's going to be a really important dynamic for us to get right, or else you're right, it will eventually kind of become one thing. It's a good thought. I like the Pandora, and there's a good example. YouTube is a good example. That's great.
All right. Well, apparently I'm smarter than I thought I was, so I made some good points. I appreciate talking to you. I'm really enjoying this system, and I plan on messing around with it for a good while. So thank you very much, and you have a great day.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hello.
Hello.
Well, I have a couple of things. Real quick, I just want to rattle off. Some of this is suggestions, and then I have like one question. The first thing is a big suggestion that I think will help your moderation staff. The Sharon chatbot should send every person that goes into member support a silent message telling them to check the status channel. Like it should say, before you ask a question, check status to make sure there are no current problems. And that should be modifiable by the mods. Like the mods could send a command and add a message to it like, we know the bot is down right now. Please wait, it'll be back up in blah, blah, blah amount of time.
I haven't figured out, like, unfortunately, Discord doesn't quite, like, make it easy for us to do that stuff right now. We don't have, like, full control over the experience. We're trying to figure out how to do it. Like,
well, the MidJourney bot sends these silent messages to us in the chat room.
Yeah, that's true.
So couldn't the Sharon, just as soon as you go in, it sends you a silent message that only you can see that says that message, basically? Like, basically, upon seeing a new member.
It can't see if you're in the channel or not, but it can see if you're typing in the channel. So we could do a thing where, like, if you're typing in the channel and the bot is down, it says, hey, just to let you know the bot's down. Yeah.
Okay. So that was the first thing. The second thing was that I think status messages in general should have ETAs on them, even if it's just an estimated, like, we expect this might be an hour, we expect this might be 30 minutes, we expect it might be 15, just some kind of rough amount of time, and timestamp the message saying we think it'll take 30 minutes as of this time, so that people know how long ago they knew it was that you guys knew it was down, and a rough idea of how long it's going to be. And if you think it's going to be an hour longer, you know, you could always update that.
Yeah, I mean, normally I think the challenge lately is when things go down, we literally don't know what's going on. The system, like our part of the system actually at this point is getting pretty mature and stable. And so like our part of the system actually hasn't gone down in a really long time. And like then like what happened recently was like Discord reset one of their servers and then they like flipped another thing and then all of a sudden our system was banned from their system. We didn't know why, and it was like 2 a.m. And like when that stuff happens, we're literally like, we have no idea what's it like. We have no idea. Like so for the last week or two, our team, every time the bot goes down, our team has been totally caught off guard. Everyone's like literally like, what do we do? We have no idea. So when it is, yeah, I think it would be good still for people to say like, it's 3 o'clock and we're investigating it and we'll update in 10 minutes. You know?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but
just
a lot
more.
of times lately, like I think they've been intimidated because the team like literally doesn't know what's happening sometimes, and they're like kind of worried, you know. But I think we can encourage them still to like post the time and post an update and like not necessarily have to edit the messages. I think that's good feedback.
Okay, the other thing, and I'm not getting into the issue itself, but I'm just saying in general, I think it would be a good idea to have a dedicated channel for discussion about the censorship and the banned words. Not necessarily because the thing is, I mean, that it's going to have a huge impact on your guys' decision, but it would move the conversation out of feedback, out of members. People could just be told, go to this channel to discuss it, and we could have open conversation about it. Because it's kind of the infinite debate in art. What is smut? What is art? What is art? What is not tasteful? You know, famously an artist took a urinal that he found in the alleyway and put it on a museum stand, and he said, "This is art."
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting question. I definitely I wouldn't want to call it like censorship talk because I don't like it as a censorship thing, but it is like what is okay, like smut talk.
Well, banned, just just a channel that's termed for the banned words and stuff. And if someone goes into members or feedback and says, why is this word banned? It'll immediately pop up and say, hey, go to this channel to discuss this, because this is set up for this discussion.
Yeah, I think one of the problems is just that it's like, I don't know if we want to have like this is the reason why every single word has been banned, you know what I mean, type of thing. And so it's like hard for the moderators sometimes, like they might even know. Usually it was bad. Something bad happened that got it banned, but like not everybody even knows. There's not like a big list. I think right now they're actually going to try to remove a lot of things off the banned list. That's a big project right now.
Yeah, we are currently working on that, and it's a lot. Especially cross-referencing it with things that have hit the filter and not. There's hundreds of thousands of prompts we're looking at, and hundreds of banned words. So we're going to be narrowing it down. It's just going to take some time.
Yeah, I mean, it could make sense to have like a channel to help the moderators like hone in on words to maybe ban or unban. I don't know, but
yeah, just like a channel that's dedicated for the discussion and the debate of like what is nudity, what should it be allowed, should it not, should certain things be banned, should they not, just to move it out of other channels so they can handle other stuff, because the debate on what is appropriate and isn't appropriate is never going to end. So you might as well give it its own place to live where people can talk about it when they need to.
It's definitely a bit exhausting for the staff. It's like maybe we add something to Sharon. It's like, why can't I make boobs? And it just like has an auto response.
Yeah, it says go to this channel and you can discuss it. There's a debate on this in this channel.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good thought. We'll talk about it I'll talk to the moderators about it.
Okay, and the last thing I wanted to say, and I don't know if this is useful at all, but it was just something I was thinking about. Do you know what Boink is? BOINC? Or like it does SETI at home and all of that, where you can donate your CPU time and your GPU time to different projects?
Yeah, Compute for Science. Yeah. Cool.
I was thinking like it would be cool if there was some way that we could have like a MidJourney Boink client. I don't even know how you pronounce it, but that's how I pronounce it. A Boink client where we could give you our spare CPU and GPU cycles, and if you could somehow channel it to use those to help make MidJourney faster and better. Because if it was possible, I would definitely do it.
I like the idea. Challenging for us right now because we don't have that many people, and making it work on all the computers like that is a lot of work for us. Eventually, it might be a direction that we go in. I think eventually, as people's computers get better and better at this stuff, more and more people will be able to pitch it. More and more people will be able to pitch in.
Because I understand it's supposed to be like an open platform that allows you to just pull massive amounts of CPU power. Like people have used it for other image generation things. Like there's like render pipelines that are using it now where you can render images from movies and stuff, and you actually get to see a portion of the image that you helped render and stuff. Like apparently it can be used for almost anything. So I thought, maybe somehow that could be adapted for MidJourney too.
I agree. I'll look into the platform. I haven't looked at it lately. It's definitely an engineering thing right now where we're a little worried that like we just don't have the time for it. But like basically right now we're focusing all of our work on trying to make our algorithms work on 3 different types of computers basically. And that makes it a lot easier for our algorithms, But long term, it's definitely not going to be that way.
Yeah, and having this free resource of people's extra CPU time might be useful. So,
we'll look at it. Thank you very much.
Okay, that was all I had, and I just want to thank you guys again for having MidJourney be as awesome as it is. I'm really enjoying the test and the test P stuff. The V3 to remaster workflow is really cool because V3 can really do some artsy stuff. It can pull stuff out of your words, and then the remastering with with test can bring it up to a level of realism that is just amazing. So I love that.
Yeah. I'm happy. I'm happy that people are having fun. It's definitely like we're definitely just trying to like throw some experimental stuff out there and help people have fun. So I'm happy that that's working out. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
I gotta run. I will be late to another thing. I hate to bail out on everybody, but did my best. We did 3.5 hours. That's pretty good this time. I think I might be able to do. If I have the time, I'm starting to like. I had COVID for a while, so I didn't have any energy, but now I think I have energy. So maybe we'll do a 4-hour one, or maybe I'll do a 2-session one day. We'll see. It's really easy to do this once a week, but then multiple times a week it can be hard because it kind of like blows my focus for a while. I gotta try to make things, work on things actually, but thank you so much for coming, and thank you for all the questions and the good thoughts, and thank you for being a part of the community. I'm happy that everyone's having fun. Keep throwing ideas at us. Drop things in the feedback channel. We're just gonna keep trying to make cool stuff, and we're gonna keep trying to make a wonderful community. And thank you for being a part of it. And we do this every week. We'll see if one day I've been trying to do one and a second time in the week at either a different hour or a different day for people who can't make it. I'll let everyone know. I guess that's it. Thank you again. See everyone next week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Always want to say more than thank you, like super thank you. Giga thank you. Yeah. Giga thanks. Have a nice day, everyone.